Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Thank you for joining me. On that, recently I have been making jokes about how I don't get a lot of followers compared to people like Hassan Piker and Asmongold. If you don't know them, don't worry. They just have a lot of viewers. But actually, I do get sometimes maybe 15 people watching the vlogs on Twitch, and maybe sometimes 15 people watching the videos posted on YouTube, and that's not nothing. As someone who has been interested in understanding and philosophy their whole lives, I recognize how rare that is. So the fact that I have any people interested is amazing. So for anybody watching this, I appreciate you, and you are a good noodle and a rare duck. Duck noodles. Sounds like a delicious, succulent Chinese meal. Okay, where are we in the book? Let's do our review while following the book, because we are getting a lot of bangers. We're getting a lot of wisdom bombs dropped on our asses. But there's a lot of particular content that's worth nailing down as well. The specifics of what the meaning of life is, the specifics of what pure justice is, and the specifics of the puzzle. Well, if there's no such thing as hell, where do we get punishment? If there's no hell in Hades, what the heck are those Hellenic stories about Hercules and other figures? I think they're stories of women going in, heroic women going in to face Hades. What are they about if there's no such thing as Hades? And also the puzzle, well, how does reincarnation play into all this? Is reincarnation a necessity for a just universe? And for there to be meaning in the world, is reincarnation a necessity? Because there can't be meaning unless there's some point to our struggles. And that point can only be a kind of learning and nurture. Two things. You can't take your Bugattis, you can't take your bank account, and you can't take all your Super Bowl trophies with you. But you may be able to take the learning or understanding you carry in your mind, and the nurturing of your soul or way of being. If there's any meaning to this, it has to be those two things. Unless I'm missing something, in which case, share it in the chat. But it seems like those are the only two things you could take with you. What you carry in your soul and the nature of your soul. Equally so, which would lead into, well, if there is a reincarnation, then there can be good and bad reincarnations. You can be reincarnated into a life of suffering and injustice. Or perhaps even worse, reincarnated into a life where you have a lot of power and positive attributes like handsomeness or beauty or connections, wealth, and no need to go through what we're doing here, this kind of learning about the meaning of the soul and the nature of life. And so you may have a potential to enact injustice, which might have even more devastating effects in your next incarnations. So if there is such a thing as reincarnation, then it has to be, what we do here has to be something to do with learning. So that leads into our idea of what justice and injustice is. Is pure justice some sort of learning and nurturing of the soul? And does that mean that injustice is to do with the consequences of your actions and how they affect the learning and nurturing of the soul? So, someone born into a life of privilege and connections, and we use Trump as an example a lot because it is sort of so cartoonishly illustrative of injustice, born into connections and wealth and etc., doesn't self-reflect. Has openly said in interviews he doesn't like self-reflection, which is a bizarre statement to make. That's the kind of soul he's nurturing. One based in ignorance and hate because of his actions in this lifetime. Actions which includes refusing to self-reflect and acting out his racist prejudices and manipulating people. And, well, yeah, you can make a list as long as your arm. All of the unjust actions that he's been doing, but resulting in a kind of soul he's developing. So, is that justice and injustice? The kind of learning and nurturing of soul? As a result of how we choose to spend our time here. If that's the case, then the activities we choose to do here might be a strong indicator, an alarm signal of whether or not you're doing something good or bad. Are the activities the sort of activities that can purify past negative learnings and nurture of the soul and develop good learnings and nurture of the soul? If you're not doing that activity, and if reincarnation is a thing, then you are, well, doing the wrong activity. Which is handy, because we've got, if this is the case, because this book bangs so goddamn much, then there are two sorts of things we can think about. We don't have to remember a lot of things. Justice and injustice. Now, of that sort of taking that for granted, if you want to live a good life or be a good person or do your work here, and you want to avoid any negative consequences in your next incarnations and in this life, and you also want to enjoy any positive consequences in this life and in greater incarnations that follow, then you got to ask, well, is what I'm doing right or wrong? Just or unjust? And even to ask that question implies a consequence or reincarnation of your soul. In which case, we're left with the question, okay, what's worth doing? The only thing you can take with you seems to be a learning and nurture. So if you're ever asking yourself, am I doing what I should be doing? Those two things, learning and nurture. In two categories, am I going through an activity that can remove a false learning and nurture, or developing the proper learning and nurture? So two things, purifying the false or perfecting the good. In what sense? Learning and nurture of the soul. So only balloons. Well, so two and then two, which should give me another thing, confetti. Purification and perfection of learning and nurture. That's it. Isn't that interesting? Well, at least that seems to be what the conclusions from this passage of the book are telling us, which is fucking amazing. I think so. I don't think, I think I'm good. I think you're not supposed to swear in the first 40 seconds of a YouTube video. So, but I'm saying it in a positive sense. It's fucking amazing. Holy shit beans. Okay. And holy beans are a good thing as well. Like senzu beans. So, worth nailing down those specifics and enlivening, rejuvenating those questions we're carrying, because we're going to carry those questions as well as we continue to read and see what pans out. Oh my goodness. Let's jump in. No coffee machine yet. In these discussions, we went further. Okay, so further than what? Okay, there's no justice to doing negative things or evil things, because justice has to be accompanied by wisdom. So those people who feel justified in hurting others or punishing others can't, in definition, be doing justice. So not only are they doing injustice, but a higher level of injustice because they're acting justified in doing so. We've got rid of the idea of Hades or hell and the devil, because you don't get anything good with punishment. It's stupid. In fact, it is antithetical to learning. We recognize that the word for sin is amartion, so we've been lied to by the church, who say that it's the cause of problems is you're a bad noodle. You're not a bad noodle, you're a fantastic noodle. That's a lie. The word is amartion, which means missing the mark. Also, we've got under our belts the fact that you can't have a Zoroastrian worldview that reality is a battleground between the forces of good and evil. So philosopher Zoroaster, whose idea was picked up by the Abrahamic religions, because metaphysically God has to be either the idea of the good, pure being, eternity. For it to be a god, it has to be eternal, or the greater God, Zeus, or the good self. So if the good self is and the idea of the good exists, then either of those levels can't be bad or evil. So you can't have a clash between good and evil, metaphysically speaking. It's impossible. Because you can't be the opposite of the nature of that level of reality. Which also adds to our question, if we have an activity to do here, and our reincarnations reincarnate us into a life where we play out the kind of like rewards and punishments, the consequences of our past life, then at what point do you want to stop going through consequences? At what point do you want to stop ignorance and forgetfulness of being born and necessarily getting ignorance by being a child? Because every child picks up a false belief about themselves and the world that they identify with, that gives them a role in the family, gives them a way of being, and dictates the course of their life in a negative way. That's called fate. Everyone gets that. And only if you're fortunate enough to come across a philosopher like Pierre Grimes, Socrates, or this channel, who can share the information about this, create the conditions for your own self-reflection, do you have the conditions for overcoming your fate and ignorance? And if you don't, you are just going to live the unexamined life not worth living, because you're going to, whether you like it or not, whether your intentions are good or not, whether you feel justified or not, whether you think it's important to do what you believe in or not. Doesn't matter, you are going to live a life where you will be learning and nurturing your soul in a way that solidifies that ignorance. So you have to really, well, I was saying get lucky, but live a life where you are fortunate enough to come across a philosopher, and you've got a nurturing of the soul enough or a character enough to go through this kind of learning. Otherwise, you're kind of fucked. So it's a real roll of the dice. Reincarnation. And if there are higher levels of reincarnation where you don't have to go through this necessary ignorance, forgetfulness, and injustice and suffering, why not go that way? Which of course leads into our question, if there's no such thing as Hades or hell, what of these stories of Hercules, a great hero, going into Hades to slay the negative images, to go to battle against these negative images? And then he escapes Hades. He's the greatest hero because he escapes Hades. But if there is no hell or Hades, what's he talking about? Is there a world where people play out the implications of negative images until they fade out into obscurity? Because that sounds a hell of a lot like planet Earth. If that's the case, does the great hero, represented by Hercules, or if what we are doing is the archetype of the hero's journey, you, my friend, if the goal is to escape Hades and be the great hero, is that a mythological representation of escaping the prison of reincarnation? Now that's Socrates' words. The kind of pure justice that we're doing is a purification of what's false and a perfection of what's true in order to escape the chains of suffering in this life and escape the prison of reincarnation. So that's Socrates' language from the Phaedo. Could that be what we're after? If so, it makes sense what we said metaphysically about there not being any sin or evil or punishment, because those higher metaphysical levels of reality are more good. The idea of the good for eternity, and beyond that, the good self, where Socrates wants us to meet him to go on an even greater journey, which is amazing because it has to transcend everything we've experienced here. With greater men and gods who have completed their work here, says Socrates in the Phaedo. So it makes sense to go on that greater journey, you have to be good. But if that is the good self, if those higher levels of incarnation is the idea of the good self, or self knowing itself as mind, or the idea of the good, then you're already good. The slaying of the demons is a purification of the false beliefs you have been carrying through your reincarnations, and you pick up a representation of in this lifetime. Which is why you don't have to do past life regression therapy, because your current pathologos will contain a perfectly balanced expression of all of the negative nurturing and learning of your soul through all of your prior reincarnations. There's the justice. There's the inherent justice in the experiencing of time-based injustice. The justice being, you have what you need. Pierre would say, a baby goat has with it what it needs for the excellence of being a goat. And it's just a little baby goat. Oh, that's a duck. What do goats say? Like that. See? And if a goat can do it, you can do it. Now there's the next bumper sticker. Sell them on your Etsy store. If a goat can do it, you can do it. So, a purification of what's false, any idea of yourself being bad, or inadequate, or sinful, or not worthy, or having a voice that shouldn't be heard, the big one. You have to purify that bullshit. It's not true. Metaphysically, it's not true. Yes, it's not true, but also it can't be true. So, no need to fear development, as believers will tell you. Oh, understanding is the devil. No, you can't know God. That's the voice of the devil. And you're not like Jesus. You have sin in your heart. You are the devil. It's all the fucking devil with these guys. But it can't exist metaphysically. And that's the purification we want to remove. Therefore, yet another reason why the cause of human problems is belief. Because all of these religious beliefs have to teach you are shit. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to give them your money and give them your daughters and wives to have sex with, which apparently is a big thing for every fucking religion out there. They always have to convince you to fear understanding, knowing, and self, because if you have those things, you don't need to believe someone else. But also to fear those things by telling you you're bad. You need salvation. Fuck off, you need salvation. The only salvation you need, or sacrifice you need to make, is sacrificing the false beliefs about yourself being bad, evil, or not good enough. You are a fantastic being. And you are an amazing noodle. Anything otherwise is an act of injustice. Anyone that says you just have faith, bro, is unjust. And anyone who passes on any specific belief or teaching that you are a bad noodle or a small bean is injustice in principle. And it makes sense because those higher levels of reincarnation requires that purification of what's false. Apparently we can only do that here because it requires a body. So we are incarnated into a world where we have a temporary existence, and even our memory will fade out like flittering shadows. But the temporary experience of a body gives us what we need to go through a learning process. The learning is specifically an unlearning of the false, bad noodle, small bean teachings and nurturings of your soul. Because you can't have anything in your psyche about you being bad if the higher levels of reality are good. The idea of the good and the good self. And what's above that? Well, that's something we can ask Socrates when we meet him. So you're a fantastic thing. Metaphysically, by definition. If you don't believe it, you will play out the implications of the belief that you are a bad. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, giving you the role of the tragic hero, ending in your tragic demise. So again, beliefs versus understanding. It's always the same. So, punishment is in principle unjust, metaphysically with the idea of hell, but also in our lifetime because it would be foolish to punish for a lack of wisdom. You don't punish people for not having a good thing. You help get them the good thing because wisdom removes ignorance or understanding dissolves beliefs. Two ways of saying that. Also, if you do the bad thing, punishment, it will bring a suffering that dominates the soul. There's the negative nurturing. So if you're punishing anyone, not only are you negatively nurturing your soul, you're negatively nurturing other souls. So double whammy, scoops of injustice on your ass. You better fucking stop that if you don't want to suffer the implications in this life and the next. So how about giving up on punishment, dudes? Also, it deprives the person of freedom. You can't force anybody to learn, but you can give them the freedom to. Or you can enslave them. Capitalist billionaires. So how about stopping that too? But that freedom we use to discover the roots of our folly. And if we don't, because we've been punished, deprived of freedom, deprived of learning, dominating the soul with suffering, we will leave untouched the core beliefs that's the fundamental to our ignorance. So we will not fulfill our purpose, or the right use of the word destiny here. Our higher purpose that we're here for, to find the core beliefs that are fundamental to our issues. Okay? So there can't be a God that exists that plays out any role in punishment. If your God is anything to do with punishment, you're fucking wrong, son. Tell your friends. Does your God believe in punishment or hell? Oh yeah. Then it's not a God. What do you mean? Can't be, metaphysically speaking. It can't exist on higher dimensions of reality. It's defined by goodness. And if just human beings can recognize punishment is antithetical to our purpose of learning and antithetical to life and creates a negative learning and a negative quality of soul, then you're saying God is stupider than humans. You've been conned, son.
No one seems to be learning or growing.
This guy had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy, other authority figures, were wrong. Not only was lied to him, and that he fell for it. All of that takes so much courage and character.
Courage and character. A kind of learning and nurturing of the soul to go through the process of unlearning and unnurturing that negative teaching. There's our friend Keegan Teagan on YouTube and Instagram. He drops lots of bangers, so I recommend you follow his stuff. So our actual God that we are building has to know the mind of man. Can't be ignorant and stupid like a devil. Learning plays a vital role in the drama we're a part of. We've been talking about. Therefore, it moves the spirit. So learning itself moves with the spirit of justice and wisdom. So where do our hey, welcome Adam. Hell, heaven, and Jesus all exist for certain. Trust Jesus always. Jesus never misleads. That can't be true in principle. It will take you courage and character to reflect on who passed on those beliefs, because they are beliefs. And if that same person said you need belief or faith or trust, they are in principle abusing you. No other profession would say, hey, just trust me. If you were learning to become a mechanic, right? And you asked a question, hey, why does the spark plug go above the carburetor? And the master mechanic you're learning from is, hey, don't understand. Understanding is bad. Just have faith that it goes there. You'd look at the guy and say, well, I'm your apprentice. I'm supposed to develop understanding, to see for myself, to function for myself. And I'm supposed to apply that understanding to test it for myself in direct experience by fixing an engine. Same thing goes for every other profession except for kings and clergies. They are the only professions where we allowed you people to say, understanding is bad, knowing for yourself is bad, just trust me, bro. That's why kings and clergy are responsible for all of the fucking murder and war and division on the planet. So, someone lied to you along the line. Don't believe me when I say that. Think for yourself. Now, if you can understand for yourself by reading this book and thinking for yourself, don't have to believe anyone, even if they wear a big hat or tassels, or I don't know what religion you grew up in, but there's always someone you have to believe that's smarter than you. If you drop that bullshit, because no one is smarter than you if you can think for yourself, then think. Does it make sense that there is a place called hell where you go through punishment with no learning? Considering we know that when you do math and you get punished for getting the wrong equation, you're never going to learn math. You are going to be suffering, which takes away from the ability to learn. You are not free and when you are under the thumb of whoever is torturing you. You're not learning how to actually balance the equation. So therefore, if we can as human beings understand that punishment is stupid and against learning, then what kind of a reality, a metaphysical reality or God would have eternal punishment? Doesn't make sense. It does, however, put you in a state of fear, which makes you easier to control. Don't believe me. Develop a question. See if you can drop your certainty. I know all the answers because my preacher told me to trust Jesus. Drop any of that. Find something you're curious about. You need to start there because that's the engine. You ain't going to learn anything if you're not curious. Turn it into a question. Could heaven and hell exist? By the way, this book that we've been reading, we have been going through what the actual teachings on and life of Jesus has been in comparison to what modern Christianity teaches. Modern Christianity rejects all of the teachings of Jesus to follow Paul. Modern Christians are Pauline Jews. You're not going to be told that at church because they don't read. They don't know how to read. They're told to just believe, bro. But you can go to past episodes and you can read through this book and see it for yourself. Not only that, if you can purify yourself from all of these lies that say that there is such a thing as hell or a devil or you're a sinner or you're no good or you're bad, you need to give your mind to these preachers, you need to give your money to these preachers, you need to kill the non-believers, all of that shit that has caused the pages of human history to be soaked in blood. If you can drop that, you are now free to actually understand the true nature of reality and experience it. You get to go to heaven. Because the way that Jesus talks about heaven in the Gospel of Mark and the Gnostic Gospels that were burnt by the church, by the way, not Paul or John, who denied Jesus, kingdom of heaven is a state of mind. It's very clear. And you only get there through a development of understanding, solving analogies or parables. Jesus is quite clear. You are only able to unlock this state of mind if you find a way of unpacking through understanding the parables I give. If you don't, you won't. That's it. Paul came along and said, oh, just have belief. And Paul put himself above Jesus. I'm the actual apostle. And I'm starting the church. Jesus didn't say any of that. And all of the stuff about dying for sins and the rapture and all that shit, Paul made up. Not Jesus, Paul. But don't believe anything I just said. Read the book. Go through the past episodes. We go through it ourselves. And if it is, hey, carry both. Carry both hypotheses. Carry the hypothesis that you can't know the kingdom of God. You can't separate your soul from the body and have spiritual experiences. You can't understand the nature of those divine experiences. And you can't go on to discover the self beyond even those experiences. Keep that, but also keep the positive. Keep what Socrates is saying here, that you absolutely can understand and know the self. Carry both. The issue is certainty. Because if you carry both, you can continue to learn, and hey, if one theory turns out to be wrong, great, you've just learned something. You've dropped something you've been carrying that's been weighing you down. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
But if someone says, no, don't carry two theories or hypotheses, just mine, well, why? That's fucking stupid. That never is the case. Oh no, but this time you have to just have one. Why? Because you're going to go to hell. That's the abuse of religion. You don't have to listen to their bullshit. Carry both. You've got a mind. Do it yourself. And as you continue to learn, see what pans out. And you're going to come up with more hypotheses along the way. That's why this is the quest of man. You're on an adventurous quest. In your inventory, you have a sack that you continue to put questions in. Discover new questions, build curiosity. And in your inventory, you've got another sack for hypotheses, likely stories or likely explanations that answer those questions. Carry those too. Don't pick favorites. You're gonna get more and more. And as you go, you'll see some pan out, some don't. Some questions will be answered. Some questions give birth to even deeper questions. That's the leveling up. This is the archetype of the hero's journey that all stories and all video games are based on. Because this is the true quest of man, or your purpose, everyone's purpose. So carry the hypothesis you get from religious officials that say, don't understand, know, or know the self. Fear those things and just believe me, bro. Carry that. And carry what we are developing from Socrates, that you can know the self. You are not a sinner. You don't have to believe other people. You're not a piece of shit. You're not any of those things. Carry that too. Carry all the negative stuff you get from religion, and carry all the positive stuff about you being fantastic. Carry both and see what pans out as you learn. But you can't do that unless you give up one thing. Here's what you have to sacrifice: certainty. Ever met a racist? They are certain of their racist. Ever met a sexist? They are certain of their sexism. They ain't gonna learn shit until they get curious. Maybe they leave their small town, they go to college, and they meet these strange people. No one's lecturing at them, but, oh, that woman is actually quite good at thinking. That brown person seems to be quite a lovely chap. Maybe my preacher and my parents and my beloved president was lying to me. Unless you can awaken that curiosity, you can't learn anything. And here we see why it's the case in the book. This book's a banger, by the way. Because what we can do here is... Oh, by the way, I'm going to get to it, so let's go forward a little bit. What we sacrifice is a core beliefs of the family, blah, 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 but also an identification with an image and a way of being. What are we looking for? We're looking for the certainty. Here we go. You experience a puzzle. So we're talking about get puzzled. That's why evangelism is so gross. I have no puzzles. I have the... But you're 16. I don't care. I'm as wise as a scholar. What? Get curious, son. No, I know that... let's say they're a Mormon. Joseph Smith is in my heart. And Jesus was a white American guy. I know that. You don't know anything. You're just told that. You haven't learnt yet. Oh, shut up. I'll fight you. That's religion in a nutshell. Get a puzzle. When you have a puzzle, you'll go through a state where you realize all of that horse shit you grew up with is wrong. That gives you a feeling of shock that your body feels and puts you in a state where you feel numb. That's good. It's good if you understand and recognize it. Believers say, oh, that curiosity and being puzzled is a bad thing. Join our flock and be certain all the time. Safety. It's not learning. So, but you also do get to experience in your body the joy if you are puzzled and you go through that state of being numb because you realize you were wrong, but you develop your own understanding. As you put the pieces together, like anything else, you start to feel joy when they come together, and you did it. You have to be willing to go along, follow someone like Socrates or this book that helps you put your thinking together. It's not some fucking self-help guru or preacher using manipulative emotional language. Imagine you're rich. Oh, imagine you're in heaven. Oh, no, this is guided thinking. You're learning how to use your mind. So when you put those conclusions that through your own understanding together, you feel joy, and then you have to test them. Notice, none of this is available to a believer. You get some bullshit when you're 5 and you never change. And you go to war against people who are different than your family. Become a racist, or become a MAGA, or become a genocider, or become a crusader. This is where human conflict comes from. Belief. Nothing else. So, when you test your conclusions and experience, you find a dropping away of that certainty. Whatever motivated you to type in your wrong beliefs with certainty, that's what you drop. You're just copying your dad or copying your preacher, who are idiots. Sorry, they're idiots. They're wrong. And they were unjust when they passed this shit on to you. By definition. Because anyone who says just believe me is stunting your development, and by definition, it is abuse to teach children they're wrong or sinful or evil, and the problems are not caused by a lack of learning or false beliefs. Problems are caused by the devil. Because it justifies punishment. It's not that you haven't learned how to hold your cup And that's why you spilt your juice. You spilt your juice because you're a nasty person and you need to be beaten. Oh, and by the way, what do you think the Jews are saying of the Palestinians right now to justify their genocide? Same shit, different day. Boo for the Zionistic Jews. It's all same thing. But that pretense of knowing, that certainty that I'm the big strong knower, that's what falls away and leaves you in an open state. You don't get an experience by this purification, but it leaves you open to continue learning. So you have to sing goodbye, says Jesus, to repentance, retribution, and salvation. Okay? But what's likely is, as soon as you started to hear somebody reflect on your words, you left the chat. So again, this is the difficulty that we face as a human race. People would rather keep that image of certainty than learn, even if it benefits their soul. And what we're learning here, not only does it benefit your soul in this life, you be a kinder person, you develop an understanding. Understanding allows you to help others. Belief can't help anything. That's why no one cares about everyone's beliefs. That's why when you pay for a university course, they don't give you beliefs, they help you learn understanding. That's why you've never built a computer or solved a medical puzzle through belief. It's always been through medical understanding or computer science understanding. So you can't help anyone. So that certainty is also matched by a cruelty. The worst fucking people are religious people who feel justified in hurting you because you are against their stupid ass false beliefs, which is a problem. By definition, for everyone, for always, on any planet, on any species, at any period of time. So what? So problems are about not good and evil, that's Zoroaster's idea, but a problem with ignorance or false beliefs that we are identified with, and wisdom or understanding. Okay, and you aren't learning anything if you're going through punishment or listening to some preacher. You're not learning anything. So that is the roots of your problems or mistakes, or why you spilt the juice, or why you put the carburetor on top of the spark plug. You never, ever, ever learn why you did it wrong if you are just going through suffering or punishment. So, if punishment is stupid in any class or any teaching, of course it's also stupid cosmologically. But the next question is, well, where do we play out the implications of punishing people, not turning around and realizing that you have been brainwashed, and by preaching belief instead of understanding, you are being an unjust person? You could spend your whole life preaching in that way. Who cares? If there's no hell, here is the idea. Reincarnation solves that issue. In this everyday world, it's full of suffering and confusions. But this is the result of people living out the influences of all they have learned and cultivated in their present and in their former incarnations. So get to work. So there's a just rendering of deeds and their consequences. So what should we be doing? Option A, stay fiercely loyal to whatever beliefs you grew up with, religious, sexist, or otherwise, and fight against anyone who encourages people to learn and understand and develop. Option B, do the opposite. Now, it seems like from the text and from Socrates himself, pure justice is option B, the opposite. Pure justice shows itself when the soul reverts on itself, self-reflection, to surface and eliminate those blocks to soul's excellence. Otherwise, you carry along whatever you've learned and nurtured from your past and present into your next reincarnations, making sense of the suffering and injustice on our planet. Okay, and then there's a question, well, what about the stories of Hades? Those in Hades carry the burden of their masks. Sounds like our false images of ourselves that we carry in our current lifetime. I am a Christian, I am a Mormon, I am a Jew, I am a sexist, I am a MAGA. this is the punishment, or the playing out of the burden of that masks is the punishment for the fraud they committed. And they also gain rewards for whatever good they've achieved until the power of their actions is dissipated. So there is a playing out of the consequence of your justice and injustice in this life and subsequent reincarnations until the power of those actions are dissipated. Sounds like a person's lifetime. There are good and bad things that follow from Einstein or from Hitler or from Trump or from Pierre Grimes that will influence humanity in a positive or negative way until even the memory of these peoples fade, because they're not their souls. Or at least not the souls that manifest in a physical body. So there's a possible explanation for Hades as a metaphor for somebody in a physical body. For justice to reign, there must be rewards for honoring and knowing the self. You understand through learning that sin loses its sustaining power over man. So, if you're a believer, then you're not going to be affected by this book. You're going to stay stuck in your problems, issues, suffering, and injustice in this life and the next. But if you do get curious and develop learning, you will gain an understanding and a seeing for yourself. There is the seeing for yourself, the understanding for yourself, and the learning for yourself that is blocked from all belief, because you can't learn in belief. God was always true forever. And if the church changes its mind about women or slaves, what's that over there? Squirrel. Forget about it. Forget about it. It was still always true, because who gives a fuck? You don't have to justify it. Just believe me, bro. That's faith. You're immune from the hypocrisies and contradictions of your own teaching. Because belief isn't about truth, in principle. It's about believing what you're told. It's so obvious. So, why then, if it's so goddamn obvious that false beliefs blocks from learning, seeing, and understanding, if it's wrong and false and harmful, why does it have so much power? We got to learn that. Man must learn why ignorance has the power it has. By the way, if our earthly experience is the only place, or is where we can learn the roots of our unsuspected false beliefs about ourselves, then it's where we can turn towards the quest of the wisdom of self. So, what we're here for is specifically not to be a blind parrot vomiting up the same stuff that you were told when you were 4 years old about Jesus or Allah or Muhammad. No, of course not. Otherwise, why the fuck would you be here if you're not here to learn? But it is where we can learn to find the unsuspected false beliefs about those things and yourself that makes you feel like you need them. So, the meaning of life. And also you can use that freedom to actually find, through your own seeing, understanding, and direct experience or wisdom, the truth about self and reality. Sounds simple. Because for learning you need a body. It's a necessity. Because all of the stages of cognitive development you go through to learn something new is accompanied by a feeling state, which the body feels. Puzzled? And you got a question. So, that's why no one gives a shit about your dumb beliefs, because there's no question there. That's why religion is dumb. Can I tell you what I believe? No, you don't have to. Because all your beliefs, like everyone, come from your parents. And I don't give a shit about your parents. I don't think that they were geniuses like you do. I used to think my parents knew everything, but I, grew up. What tyrants do. Everything I know is right. right-wingers, fascists. But if you've got a question, now we can play. Have a puzzle that's unsolved, you feel perplexed in your body. When you realize that you didn't know what you thought you knew, you feel numb and shock in the body. When you follow along in a search for an answer, that's what we're going through now. So you can answer that. What's it like to read in this way? What's it like to reflect in this way? What's it like to puzzle in this way? How does it feel? When you come to a conclusion, you feel a joy. Hooray.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
You'll be a cutie pie like Emma from the Majority Report. And when you you awaken a need for an experience of knowing. You come to a joy of a conclusion, but now there's something else that comes to birth that you feel, well, I want to know if it's true. It's a nice story. I like that it makes sense, but how do I know? This stage of learning, so these are all stages of learning, says the book. Hooray. You don't add anything. Does not add anything. So up until we've been feeling stuff and changing stuff and feeling joy, there's no addition here because the verification of your understanding it's experienced through the body is a dropping away. So a feeling, people often use the word light. You feel lighter. Less tension. Less physical pain. The dropping away of all of the things that you have, because you know what? Belief doesn't have knowing. The tension you feel when you proselytize, you think, oh, that's what it means to be knowing. The, screwing up your face and saying, oh, praise Jesus. Being bitten by a snake is what it means to be knowing. Whipping yourself for some religious people. They actually whip themselves. That's what it takes to be knowing. Killing non-believers for a lot of people. That's what it means to be knowing. Shouting at people who disagree with you because you can't have a dialectic, you can't reason. That's what it means to be knowing. Having the door slammed in your face as a Mormon, door knocking. That's what it means to be knowing. In other words, in belief, you have to compensate with any of these negative bodily tensions for what it means to be knowing. Because there's no knowing, there's no development in belief. That's why it's the cause of our problems. But here we have a letting go of all that shit you've been carrying. A purification. So there's nothing you have to remember. You don't have to carry anything more. You're lightening your load. Load.
Where's the passion?
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
Sorry for saying load. Being in an open state, one can follow... Oh, and that emptiness or purification leaves you in an open state, allowing you to keep going through this process again and again. Opening yourself to deeper learning. Go all the way, baby. And escape Hades, or escape reincarnation. Why go back and deal with more religious people? More parents pretending to be a king priest of the house? Dealing with more tyrants playing out their ignorance in this life? Having to live in a world with ethnic cleansing and murdering and starvation of children, and why not escape this negative playground through your development, says Socrates. So, sing goodbye to repentance, retribution, and salvation. Last time I said, tell them to fuck off, but sing goodbye is probably a more pleasant, charming way of getting rid of the game of feeling like a bad noodle and saying sorry for being so bad and evil and sinful, accepting punishment from some sadist or retribution, from the promise that you'll be saved if you believe this shit, which is crazy. But sing it goodbye. If justice plays a decisive role, then there has to be reincarnation. That's been our question. How is it necessary for reincarnation to be if there is justice? What else can make this idea? What other than this idea can make sense of the vast injustice we see everywhere? We have to bring in reincarnation, says this line of reasoning. Not line of reasoning as if there are many, says reason itself. That we are following along with, that we wouldn't be able to do unless we were puzzled and numb, and maybe we've even had an experience of joy, of insights when they come together, motivating us to follow along. That joy of it coming together, Aphrodite. Following along, Apollo. So it's good to keep an eye on these metaphysical principles you're engaging in as you go. And to put a lovely picture on it. Got the 12 gods. It attunes you to the principles of reality to play the mythology game. Ain't literal. If you think that, you're a barbarian. Says the book. So, we are in a cycle of reincarnation because we're here to learn. What you learn will end the cycle of clan beliefs. So that's the negative, ending the cycle of clan beliefs, and the positive is to go on and know themselves. So last time we built a map. 2 things we're here for. Whoop. There's pornography up here. Oh, that's right. Someone who has a beautiful soul shines with a beauty that far transcends any physical hotties. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, someone with a leaf blower at my window, you know, they have rakes and brooms. Why do you have to have the loudest invention in the world to move leaves? Lucky there's no hell, otherwise that guy would be... No. Our sacred goal, anything other than following our sacred goal is a problem or a block or an indication that you've got a problem you need to address. What is our sacred goal? To fulfill our destiny, our purpose, our highest fulfillment, which is to know the self and realize the nature of reality is divine. There's the self as the first cause, and reality or being where the gods live is the idea of mind or reality, and it's divine. And it's your consciousness. It ain't nothing other than you. The difficulty is you are, as we said earlier, the next level is soul. But here we get freedom, autonomy. No one's going to make you do this, learn this. I'm trying my best to make it fun with crazy sound drops like this.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
And this.
Whore.
That's funny. The Oracle saying whore like a million times. That's funny. But we said believers we recognize as other to others, which is the category of logos they're in. We talk about them being other than people who are developing understanding because they're in opposition to it. They're other than even other religious people. There are many wars where many people have been tortured and murdered and abused because they're not the right kind of Christian. They're other from others. You look across at the other Mormons in your group and you think, well, I'm not the same as those weirdos. But they're also other from their own souls. Because so you accept limits. By definition, you can't be in the group unless you believe in Jesus and you believe in all these other limitations. You have to limit understanding, knowing, and seeing the self. Or knowing the self, or recognizing the self. Let's use that. It's not an object to be seen, that's not one. And it's not something knowable, because that's being. So, let's say recognizing for now, but that's one of our puzzles. But our soul seeks freedom or unlimitedness. But your soul or your spirit will play a subordinate role to your current level of development. So you're in opposition with your own spirit. As a believer. So what? Why are we talking about that now? Because here at the level of soul, oh yes, if you accept the limits, you can't be the unlimited or the eternal or the divine here at being. So your destiny is to know the nature of reality as divine. That's your mind. That's you. That's you knowing yourself as pure mind or reality. But by definition, therefore, you can't be in belief because belief is in conflict between the self-logos terms, including limit and unlimited. So here is the unlimited or the divine, and you as a believer are limited in nature, therefore you have to sacrifice one. Keeping you, if you stay with the level of belief, you will stay stuck in reincarnations at the level of the soul. And your purpose is to realize the nature of reality is divine, which is here. And of course, the other part of your destiny is to go beyond that to the self, to know thyself. It's what you're here for. So, by reading this book the way we're doing, we are reading the handbook of the video game that we're in. Back in the old days when you'd buy a video game, they would come in like a case, and you'd open it up, and there'd be the cartridge, and they'd also come with a little booklet. So on the drive home, or for as long as you're at grandma's house, you can imagine what the game's going to be like and ignore everything grandma has to say. And you'd read the handbook and learn all of the mechanics and learn about the characters and create a vast imagination in your mind of what you're going to experience when you get home and you get to play the game. This is the handbook. But as we just said, you can't be in opposition to those levels of reality. Elim in 8. Therefore, the first thing and the most significant thing that we're here to do is to surface and eliminate the blocks to that excellence or purpose. Those blocks are caused by unsuspected false beliefs about ourselves that come from our past learnings and nurturings of our soul from past reincarnations, and the current ones you get from clan beliefs in your particular family, your particular flavor of whatever religion and whatever culture and whatever. You ever gone to someone else's house when you're a kid, sleepover or something, and the way they talk is weird, the things they do are weird, what they eat is weird for dinner, and the whole place even smells weird. But you took for granted that your way of being was the right one. Gives you that pretense of knowing. We got a taste of that today with Mr. Adam, who came in with, I have the pretense of knowing. And that gives you a loyalty to any other goal other than this, surfacing and eliminating your blocks and knowing the self. I would rather be a good Jew or a good Christian or a good evangelistic person or whatever. That's a problem. Now, we also talked about needing courage, because these false pretenses people get addicted to, and they are afraid of their own understanding and development. So you need a courage to find this in spite of your fear and sacrifice this negative in spite of your pleasure. Give up your pleasure of what's bad and keep pursuing what's good even though you're afraid of it and it's unfamiliar. That's courage. You need courage.
It's sad.
And I'm sad for you.
And if you don't, I'm sad, it's sad, and I'm sad for you. So, pretty much you can say it in a more simpler way. Master the self-logos, dissolve the pathologos. But now we have a new way of... How many leaves are out there? Fellow outside is putting into a pile all of the leaves that have ever existed in the course of the universe. My God. And he needs a V8 goddamn motor in his leaf blower. Actually, no, it doesn't sound like a V8. No, it sounds like a tinny scooter motor, but with the volume of a V8. I'm gonna write a nasty email to the head of the... I don't know what that's called. Housing committee. I'm renting, and landlord doesn't give two shits, so... I live in a, what do they call it? Slumlord place. But in America, they talk about the petty tyrants playing out their own false knowing by being the head of the housing or the neighborhood committee. I was going to make a joke about that, but I forgot the words for it. But we can say it another way. We can say ending the cycle of clan beliefs and going on to know the self. So we can say it in a different way. So let's put that on the board. So we can say our destiny is to go on to know the self. Put that there. So know the self and end the cycle of clan beliefs. Put an end to the suffering and injustice. Clan beliefs, which go all the way back to our early evolution as cavemen. Clan beliefs. Blind loyalty to the tribe. The tribe of Israel, the tribe of Abraham, you name it. Alright, I have to close my window. It sounds like he started a Facebook group for other people who have the loudest leaf blowers in the neighborhood, and they've all decided to meet up today and have their annual meeting outside my goddamn window. All 80 of them. See, this is why Mark Zuckerberg has to have his power taken away from him. Facebook groups. Alright, give me a sec. Continue recording. I'm back from the visiting the leaf blower convention and closing my window. So, know the self, end the cycle of clan beliefs. Doing anything else, you've got an issue. Why? Because you're loyal to some other goal, which is probably because you're listening to someone with the pretense of knowing, or you like to be a knower yourself. The pretense of knowing, of course. And that's from incarnations and your clan beliefs. And at the root of that is the unsuspected false belief about yourself that you're here to surface and eliminate. And we went through the cognitive stages and the associated feelings in the body, having a question and feeling puzzled, realizing you're wrong, numb and shocked, following the lead to discover an answer. So this is our reading. This is Apollo. No feeling, but you can put in what it feels like to read this book. Having a good time with our hilarious sound drops.
Bless you. Excuse you. Bless you.
I don't know what the context of Emma saying bless you, excuse you, bless you is, but I'm sure it was funny at the time. And we have R.M. Brown saying,
that's where you live, in the weirdo pool. You're going around doing that in the weirdo pool. That's you.
Doing his bathroom noises, which is what he is known for. Oh yeah, this week R.M. Brown was on the Majority Report, so that was a big deal for me. R.M. Brown's got a great YouTube channel, and the Majority Report is pretty good too. Especially on Thursdays, when the fun half on Thursdays. And you can find, they don't post the fun half links, but if you go to the regular live stream of the podcast on YouTube, they have a link to it in the description. So there's a little hack. Click on that on a Thursday and you get Matt Binder and I can never remember their names. The Ninja Turtles, Emma and the two lads who come on, and the other Matt who's the sound guy. And no, there's a new sound guy and he's pretty funny. He's an army dude or something. He used to be an army dude or something. So everyone has to laugh at him because they're afraid of him. Because he'll blow you up. Anyway, he's pretty funny. Come to a conclusion after following along. You get a joy in your body. Dropping away of the pretense of knowing as the result of this, as you put it into experience, get into an open state, and you go over this process again and again. What's that like? Once you're when you've been learning this, you're going through this learning state, but now you've nurtured it into your soul that you are always following the logos. The logos of our reading, the logos of your dreams, and the logos of the serendipities, coincidences, symmetries, repetitions, all of the things we use to unpack the books, all of the things we use to unpack our dreams, you can also apply and keep an eye out for in your everyday life. Do you notice coincidences, deja vu, symmetries, repeating themes, all these sorts of stuff? And that's learning to see the logos, and if you follow along with it, if you find the meaning behind why it's happening in relation to the questions that you've been developing, then you are following the logos. But then if you keep doing it again and again, we have that question, what's it like when you've been following the logos in this way? To the point where it's not just a learning, but it's also a nurturing of your soul. And the hypothesis we're carrying in our hype sack is living the logos. I don't know if that helps you, but I'm carrying it in my hypothesis sack. Okay. So what if the before your next reincarnation you say, no thanks, no more. I'd rather not be reincarnated. To whatever degree the soul is aware that he's facing a life where misery and suffering is its lot, why not pull back and say no? That's where we're at. Why not escape this horseshit? You're sick of this timeline and it's all its injustice and tyranny and upside down, topsy-turvy nonsense? Why not pull back and say no? Socrates says, well, we are a race that has a destiny to fulfill. The end is everywhere present, so you can meet this end, fulfill your purpose or destiny at any time. To come to know thyself is to realize the nature of reality that we are in is divine. Our task is complicated because we seek other goals. So it's only difficult or complicated because we think there's other things worth doing. Other than coming to know the self and realize nature of reality is divine. We're here to master our present fate, which we said is removing those loyalties, and fulfill our destiny, our highest meaning and purpose. For everyone. Destiny of man. Kind. Or we could even say all beings. Anyone in this cycle of reincarnation and time is self experiencing through mind, reflecting into time. So it's a kind of learning that will always apply. The problems that we face and return to again and again are loyalties to anything other than our sacred goal. Loyalty to that other than the goal is the nature of problems. So a problem is a problem because it is a loyalty to a different goal than this. Then this. This. A problem isn't a problem if you are fulfilling your destiny and mastering fate. A problem is a problem if you are blocked to that. And keeping it. And doing it with excellence. No mediocrity up in this bitch. To people who are doing mediocrity, we say...
That's weird that you think that.
That it's weird that you think that. No mediocrity up in this biatch. That's what a problem is. Blocks you from this. And we can say it really nicely. Master the self logos and the pathologos. Or end the cycle of clan beliefs, and know the self. See, this is fun. You have lots of different ways of saying the same thing, and each of them are simple, beautiful, elegant, rational, Aphrodite and Apollo. And what do you do once you've noticed? Where's my pen? Once you've noticed Apollo Aphrodite, the beauty of the simplicity, Aphrodite, beauty, simplicity, elegance, or the joy of the wholes coming together. This one here. Your understanding coming together into a conclusion, that's joy. That principle is Aphrodite, beauty. And you've recognized that the coming together is a rational order, or Apollo, or a harmony, rational. Then you seek the cause behind that. What allows us to play so beautifully in saying the meaning of life in this way, in this way, in this way, or in this way? See, 4 different ways of saying the meaning of life. 5. Ready? What's the meaning of life? To fulfill your sacred goal. What's another way of saying that? To fulfill your destiny and master fate. What's another way of saying that? Master the self-logos. Master the pathologos in a way that dissolves it. The mastery of these. Or, another way, know the self and the cycle of clan beliefs. Another way, this whole big list. See? Each of them brilliant, rational, Apollo, beautiful, comes together in our own psyche for ourselves. Don't have to believe anyone, even if they're very adamant, willing to kill non-believers. We don't have to believe anyone. Apollo and Aphrodite. What do we do with those? Well, Socrates says when you see the beauty and harmony, Aphrodite and Apollo, you want to participate in its cause. How can I get to the highest expression of these things, their hyparxis? How can I participate in the cause of being able to make beautiful and rational statements like this? This curiosity to participate in it fully, participate and reach the cause of it, is the movement from Aphrodite and Apollo to what is the leader, or where these both lead. We got love and logos over here, the dialectic or Hermes, with the shoes that have the wings to take us to our goal. And equally so, if we are doing something beautiful and rational and people get curious, and I was playing the other day and somebody asked, how long have you been playing for? And I was like, that question again. No, they're asking me the cause. They're just using physical language, time language. Actually, it's not about how long I've been playing. It's because the beauty of the music and the harmony of how it all comes rationally together is the expression of the inherent beauty and harmony in all things. And I'm only able to play music because I am myself participating in that. By the way, that's called the dialectic. It's what we're here to master, because it's through Hermes or the dialectic that we master the self-logos. And we use that same dialectic to master the pathologos, to dissolve that and gain the excellence of this. It's the dialectic. So our sacred goal, say it another way, why not add another one to the list? Master the art. It's an art because we use it to benefit. You have to sort of share it, talk about it. For me, it's making music. For other people, it's their art. Talked about other people who are able to communicate reason in a beautiful way. But you use it to benefit, so it's an art as well. Dialectic, the art of the dialectic. There we go. And I have to practice ways of introducing this. And I think the step is to say, well, what do you find beautiful? What do you find well-ordered or beautiful in what I just played? And then that will give me some words about what they find curious or interesting, and those words would be something from which they can develop a question, get puzzled. And I've already recognized playing music that part of my goal is to navigate that state of mind of the false knower or certainty, because anyone who comes in with that, they're fucking terrible. They are the worst. Which is why musicians are often the worst people to play to. Oh, I know that. You're playing that wrong. Let me play it. Oh, fuck off. Literally, they're the fucking worst. Only because, and only if they get into that false certainty, because that's what they think it means to be knowing, because that's what their parents and their preachers did. So, what do you find beautiful about it? Put words on it. Now you've got a question. Especially if you're puzzled. Actually, just thinking. And then you got to realize you were wrong. Now, I'm just thinking about someone else who is able to present reason very well, Apollo, and in amazingly simple ways, like really beautifully put. And this person also spends some of their time making fun of people's ignorance and their state of being, their certainty. Look at you feeling like you've won because you're a big tough whatever, but you're just wasting your time. You're trolling, you're repeating a catchphrase, you're imitating whatever leader of your cult that you're in. And I've been wondering about that for a while, and today as well. But I think the artfulness of that, of the making fun of those peoples, is because you're making fun of them in a simple or beautifully put way, and you are speaking the truth. You've got Aphrodite and Apollo in the way that you're mocking their way of being. It can have the effect of getting them to realize they were wrong and getting puzzled even. One or both of those things. Which is the first two stages of learning. Necessary. You ain't going to learn anything if you think you're right, and you ain't going to learn anything unless you have a puzzle. So you make fun of them, of their stupid way of being, so they realize they're wrong, but also in making fun of them, you use beauty and harmony, or your way of being, to say, hey, why are you like this? Why are you wasting your day this way? Why do you follow this person? Why is your life being like this? Why do you have no friends? To get them puzzled and to realize they're wrong. And then they're more open to follow the lead of the conversation that follows. And then if they follow along, which is their choice, they have a freedom to do so, they will feel a joy when they come to a conclusion, and then they'll go out into their life, hopefully. It will encourage them to, hey, don't be a nihilist, don't give up, don't be a loser with loser mentalities. Take your conclusions and apply it to the everyday world and see what happens. And they'll find that they can't reach their goals unless they drop away that image that has hopefully been mocked sufficiently that they're not attached to it, because you can only reach your goals if you get rid of the false image of the self and the false image of knowingness that blocked you in the first place. Because every step towards our goal is a step towards knowing the self, and the self is beyond images. You can't have an image of the self. Reality is a receptivity to a gift of divine enlightenment, knowing everything all at once, and recognizing the self as eternal, both of which is beyond. One is a receptivity, so there's no image there, gets in the way, and the self ultimately is, by definition, beyond images. So you're not giving them a way of being of imitation, which is the cause of their problem in the first place, but by encouraging them to put their conclusions into effect in the real world, they're dropping things away, becoming more open and receptive to go over the process again. Maybe they'll change their username and they get back into the chat. And they have a fun time going through the same process of mocking this pretense of Noah in a caring way, in a beautiful and rational way. It's not anti-reason. That's the problem. To be blocked from reason and your own seeing is the problem. To be blocked from your goals to fulfill the goals of a tyrant or a cult leader is the problem. But to get them puzzled and numb, and then be open to the following of the reason that follows, seeing it in their own way, is the joyful conclusion, but then also encouraging them to apply it. Don't give up. Don't be a doomer. And then you'll find you've dropped away of things you're carrying, and then you can change your username, come back and go through the process again. Now, as a musician, I start, well, no, not always. I was going to say I start with a little bit of a head start because they're already puzzled by hearing music that is different or they find beautiful. Not always. I was just making fun of knowers or musicians who can be terrible. Old dads, drunk dads who try and give me, you know what you should do? You should play your guitar outside the pub I go to. Should I? Really? Why should I do that? That's how you get your name out there. You know nothing about music or the industry. Why are you giving me advice? Because you're an old dad playing the knower of your own dad who didn't know shit. Instead, I need to make them curious about something. Yeah. Which actually I kind of did that one time. Because the guy was in front of his son and I made a joke about, does he give advice to all people in all industries he knows nothing about? And I think just even being questioned, or the fact that I was talking to his son and not him, made him puzzled and shocked. Like, what's going on here? An NLP or that guy, what's that news magician? Darren Brown, he talks about, does these little tricks where he just puts people off their pattern, like going for a handshake, and instead of shaking their hand, which they're expecting, he grabs their wrist and he says, "Now give me your wallet and your keys." And like, oh, here you go, here's my wallet and keys. They're in numb, they're in shock, because their pattern has been shifted. So, is there something there? I don't know. Breaking patterns. Actually, yeah, I remember Pierre telling a story about that. About some kids in a basement who were fighting in an argument. I think there's 3 of them. And one kid pulled out a gun on the other kid. And the dad came down and his way of de-escalating the situation or breaking their pattern was to fart loudly. And they were all too shocked to continue on the family drama. Pierre told that story a couple of times. He found that quite funny. He had an interesting sense of humor, that guy. But of course, then in that openness and curiosity, then the next stage would be to use the dialectic to reflect on the pathologos that caused their pattern to escape fate. Or reincarnate differently the next time they're playing in the basement. So, they identify with the values of the family clan. What is it in the transmission that makes it believable? You get a way of being, an identity. So, let's add to the thing here. Pretense of knowing, loyalty to any other goal, and also results in not green. How about this color? Resulting in. So why accept what is false? In accepting what is false, which is the belief. Again, reflecting everything we've seen in religion with the core belief of Abraham. Core belief. Or the core belief of MAGA, blind loyalty to Trump. In opposition to reason. Core belief. You get a way of being and identity. A way of being. A wob. Get a wob. W-O-B. Get a wob. And you get an identity. That's the issue. I am a Jew. I am a Christian. I am a Asmongold follower. I don't know. And it's the identity that plays their choice, decisive role. And it's this identity here that it's this that plays a decisive, which means it makes the decision, role in our choice of our next reincarnation. So you choose it in our choice. Of course, we can ask the question, what would be the best choice? Well, if this is what we hear, and without encountering a Socratic philosopher or a master of the dialectic, you are stuck in fate, which is going to cause you suffering and confusion and ignorance in this world, and also further negative reincarnations beyond it. So better make your choice one where you meet a Socratic philosopher, and in a state of condition where you're going to fucking, well, I don't have to say it forcefully because you're already this far along. Anyone watching this, you've already made this choice to be here. But also with the life conditions where you are receptive to listening to them. So if you ever wondered, I wish I was an athlete, I wish I was more popular at school, I wish I was the big man on campus, I wish I was the prom king, actually, maybe you did really well in not picking those things. Because you'd have even more people in society and the family trying every day to make you one of them. I want the big man on campus to be a Christian, to be a MAGA, to be a racist, to be a Jew, whatever the fuck. And you've been given money for being that way your whole life. And everyone cheers you. You should be a politician. Yes, you should run the company. Ever notice that billionaires don't listen to anyone else? They only hire yes men? So how in the fuck would you, listen to a Socratic philosopher so you can go through that process of following the lead? You're not leading, because otherwise you'll come to the same conclusions you already came to. This ain't a fucking debate, son. Dialectic. Following the Logos. The Logos has its own force and will and guidance. A master dialectician isn't doing anything, they are following. That's why all of the terrible midwife talks that you may have experienced have always been people thinking they're in charge. Or thinking they know the answer already. It's always a fucking disaster. Because they're just using midwifery to play out their pretense of knowing. Oops. You're not there for that reason. You can recognize the stages, and the more that you're familiar with it, the more of understanding and experience you have, the more you can navigate, but you're navigating the Logos. That's the one in charge. That's why yourself have to be puzzled and numb. I asked Pierre this. I said, are you so good at midwifery with these people because you've been talking with them for 40 years and you're familiar with their pathologos? And he said, that's a good question, but the answer is no. I'm genuinely... because I don't see the... I don't see the pathologos. I am genuinely puzzled about how a human being can be affected so much by a false belief. Some of these people for 40 years or more, they've been having regular midwife talks, and they still seem to be stuck in their problems. I remember coming out like in a midwife talk, and Pierre did it beautifully, and the person came out with a conclusion. Here. Conclusion. Therefore, the dream is saying you need to go out and do this. You have a vision. You're a seer. You can see what's going to happen in the educational system in America. You can see what's going to happen with Trump. This is before, Trump got elected. You can see how the education system's going to tank. And the dream is saying, you're a good seer. Put words on your seeing. Go out and tell this person and that person. And then, the meeting ended. We were at like a Denny's or something, and Pierre was given a lift home or something, and just outside talking to them. And I was like, so are you going to do that thing? That's exciting. You're going to go and talk to that person? No. What do you mean, no? You would just had a midwife talk with Pierre Grimes. And then they all got pissy, and they all ganged up on me. What about your talks? What are you doing? How about you say this? What? No, you. What did you? Didn't do it. And I've had, that's 10, 20 years ago that happened. Why didn't they do it? Not only that, they were offended that I suggest that they do what the conclusion was. After 40 years of talks. Baffling. So I guess I'm equally as confused as Pierre is about how, even with Pierre Grimes, even after 40 years, they are monsters by pointing to the logos. Hey, the logo says this. Why don't you do this? Fuck you. You can fucking die. Not only that, what do clan-based belief thinking function to do? To get people to bind together against a shared target. You gain clan loyalty by attacking the person against the clan. They had their own little clan here. They had their own little pecking order and hierarchies. Anyone against that, you can fucking die. We will hate you, and we will bind together in our clan group in hatred of the person who follows the logos. Despite the fact that I spent 40 years learning about the logos. So yeah, I'm just as confused about the power of that. The power of these false beliefs that Socrates is in the fucking building. And still I know better. That's the power of the pretense of knowing. How can you do that? As soon as the guy left the room, they're back into their monster behavior. To the point where I had to sit outside. I couldn't stand to be in a room with some of them. Pierre came in, they were angels. Well, at least trying their best. Why? Because if you accept the core belief, that plays out in groups, that plays out in even this group and religions and families and stuff like that. You get a way of being where you can be that knower. The way of being is we get to shit on this person. There is our human sacrifice, our scapegoat. Anyone following the logos or challenging our way of being. And my identity. That's what you're offered. To accept the false, a core belief, which is detrimental to your soul and your reincarnation and your functioning in the world, you get in return a way of being and an identity. That's MAGA in a nutshell. Everything is false in MAGA. Everything is detrimental to their current life and their subsequent lives, and will maybe even put an end to all life on this planet. But in exchange, they get to wear the red hat, they get to use the R word, they get a way of being where they can talk about the things they're interested in or that they hate. They have a shared victim that we're just talking about that they can all gang up on and get a sense of solidarity. They can join ICE and rape and murder just random brown people, which is fucked, but it's happening, and send them to concentration camps and do the same torture there. That's the way of being. And you can also, wear the hat. That's my identity. You can put the MAGA sticker on your pickup truck. I am a Republican. and all of the comedians that try and introduce reason in a humorous way. Oh, by the way, Biden did this. Isn't it terrible? Yes, he should be locked up. Oh, actually, I got the word wrong. It was Trump. Should he also be locked up? No, because the core belief is Trump is Jesus. Or all of the bullshit upbringing stuff with religion is now put on to Jesus. Change from Paul's view of Jesus to Trump. The core belief that Trump can do no wrong, while he does all of the things wrong. And so that's what you get in return. But the issue is that identity, along with that way of being, that identity plays a decisive role in our choice. So that's interesting. Wherever you are now, you've chosen. So hopefully you've chosen a life where you've come across this stream and you weren't too popular and rich and loved by everyone that all of the many are fighting to get you to not do this, so you're able to be open and curious. So, nerds and outcasts and introverts unite. Because that plays your identity plays a decisive role. So not the decisive role, but still create decisive role in our choice of our next reincarnation. Dun, dun, dun.
He better not.
You better not. Reincarnation. There you go. So, get to, not work, fun, because it's fun. It's the best fun.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
It's disgusting, and you'll be so disgusted if you don't do this, says Socrates. So, the child accepts a new way of being that marks and shapes his life. So in reincarnation, analogically speaking, the soul also accepts a way of life that marks and shapes his or her new life. So, we go through a kind of, forgetting when we're born, but there is a moment in childhood where there's a moment in childhood where we accept this fundamental false belief about ourselves, this core belief, that gives us a way of being, an identity that shapes our whole new life. There is an origin scene, which means there is a skill and art of reflection, tracing your problems through your past, the problems that play out in your present that has a negative effect on your future. It's rational. You can trace it back through this art of dialectic we're literally here to master. Through the past to the origin scene, to find that origin scene where we got that false image of ourselves being a bad noodle. You're a sinner, you're no good, whatever. Or you're a small bean. You can't know the nature of reality. You can't experience the levels of incarnation beyond this one, even in this lifetime. You can't separate yourself from the body. You can't think for yourself. You're a bad noodle and a small bean. That's an image of yourself that gives you a way of being and a role in the family. You identify with it. It becomes your mask. You spend your life in culture. What a pleasure it is to join your stream. Oh, I'm glad you think so. All right, if you find something to get curious and wonder and bit puzzled and numb beyond all puzzlement about. Because if you do find yourself puzzled and confused and shocked, then you're in the right place. Because as we've seen, the cognitive stages in our development to fulfill our purpose here, you have a question that you get puzzled about, which is why you can only do the learning here, because these feeling states require a body. So therefore, the meaning of our life, we're here, we can only learn here. You have a question and you get puzzled, but then you realize you were wrong. That's a shock that you feel in your body, and you end up feeling numb, but that's a good thing. Seek it. Seek opportunities where you realize you've been wrong your whole life. Your whole identity you've been wrong. The more shocked and numb, the better. Because that's the next stage, because now you can follow along with the book. following along with the dialectic. Also your dreams, as you learn dream analysis, you can do that as well. As you notice the coincidences that play out in your life, you can follow that as well. But the book is the best one. You come to your own conclusions, you feel joy, you test it in experience, you don't gain anything, but you drop away those masks, those self-identities, the way of being, the way of holding yourself, the tensions. You see an old person, sometimes you see them, the lines baked into their forehead. They've been scowling their whole lives. You lose it. You drop it away. You feel lighter. You feel freer. You don't have to remember anything because you're not carrying anything. You're sacrificing. This is the true idea of sacrifice. While believers have to sacrifice this, what's good, we have a different idea of sacrificing. You're sacrificing what's false. Our false beliefs, our false way of being, and the false identity. That you're a small bean in a bad noodle. To that we say,
Whore much.
whore much. And then we say,
Don't be disgusted. 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 Don't be disgusted.
with all respect, I am here to help you understand every word you said properly. What? Are you? My typing can't keep up with typing. Okay. Well, I hope you are not coming in with a sense of certainty, because that sense of certainty is the false pretense of knowing that you got from childhood. What we are looking for are questions. The thing about questions is, to hold a question is to be on a quest. And if it's a question, we can both carry that question as we realize we were wrong and follow along with the logos to come to conclusions. A shared quest, because
You're a wizard.
we're all wizards, Harrys. And this is the archetype of the hero's journey. So, why accept something so false and devastating that comes along with that feeling of certainty? Because we get a way of being. I am a MAGA. And an identity. Look at my red hat. But it's that identity that plays a decisive role in our next reincarnation. Says the book. Not me. Says Socrates. And Jesus. So we can allow me to respond with questioning your own certainty. It's called contrarianism. Yeah, you just say no. It's easy. That's what MAGA does. How about no? How about not me, but you? Right, so instead of that, look for something you're genuinely puzzled about. If you say, I know the answers, I actually agree with you. Oh, great. But still, find something that you're puzzled about. Yourself. In yourself. About everything. Great. Word it. What we're learning is the dialectic, which allows us to phrase our questions in a really concise way, or polish it up like a gem. Imagine you've got a gem in a video game and you can polish it up to a super gem or a perfect gem by getting the words that reflect it, making them simple, and carrying that gem around you as you go and sharing it with us. If it's a question that I also have, I'd rather voice chat to convey that. Hey, look at that. Hooray. Yeah, I suppose we could get into voice chat down the line. We are learning the dialectic and midwifery and dream analysis. We've had a few mini dialectics in chat, but the heart from someone else. But yeah, I think maybe a little bit further down the line we will have that heart was from when you followed. We could have voice chats. There are certain conditions that need to be made before you can go through a dialectic like that. You have to well, first of all, you have to be seeking excellence. And then as you seek to know thyself and realize the nature of reality through mastering the art of dialectic, then you'll surface blocks to that. It's those blocks that we can surface through our talks. In Discord, yeah. So in Discord, we could have voice chats and stuff. Provided you are seeking this in a certain kind of a way, because that's required to surface the blocks. If your goal is to be certain or to be the knower or something like that, or to be a good Jew or whatever, then that's not going to work. You have to be seeking to know the true nature of self and reality and be willing to go through the ups and downs in the process of reaching that. Because as you do that, seek your highest, most sacred goal to reach your destiny and remove your fate, then you will find the blocks that come up. That will reflect unsuspected false beliefs about yourself that the talks will go through to help you surface by seeing the patterns in your blocks. So you have to be doing it for a while, enough so that you can recognize a theme coming up in your language. As you seek your most meaningful goals, you will hit a wall, but keep going. You take notes about the thoughts and feelings that come up in opposition to your goal. And then after a while, you'll have enough to start to notice themes that come up. And the best thing to do is do dream analysis, because now you've got a cache of clues in your back pocket, thoughts, feelings, voices that sound familiar, that tell you you're not good enough or you're a small bean or a bad noodle. But your dreams will give you messages about those blocks. And also you have to have your nose in one of these books, because you also have to be seeking to know the self through mastery of the dialectic, which you get through these sort of books. So finding the truth and removing the false, that's the game. The false beliefs are called the pathologos. The truth is the understandable, knowable structure of reality that we follow to reach the truth is called the logos, or the self-logos. So you've got to be doing both. But if you are doing both and you're genuine in it, and you're willing to sacrifice your false beliefs that you have been carrying your whole life, the way of being that is familiar, comfortable, and the identity that you've been spending your life ingratiating yourself in, if you're willing to sacrifice what's false, if it's false, in order to know the truth about self and reality, and you're having fun reading these books, and you're recording your dreams, then absolutely we can talk. But you have to meet those conditions, otherwise it's just a waste of time. I don't want to be a subject of your experiment. It's not an experiment, it's learning. It's literally the stages of learning that we've been outlining here. It's the meaning of life. It's what we're here for. I agree with your entire process. Oh, great. I can identify with the uncarry accuracy in, brother, I've read Law of 1 times 10 times. Law of 1. I don't know that book. Is it good? Who wrote it? You've read the book 10 times. That's neat. So, we can create an analogy. Just as when we were a young kid, we don't yet have a grasp of the logos, we have our voice chat. Not until I know you a little bit better. And I have to see that you're stuck around for a while, because a lot of people come in pretending to be interested in actually learning, but they just want an opportunity to play out their image of themselves as the knower. So there are kind of conditions you have to meet. You have to be genuinely interested in understanding, genuinely interested in development, having your nose in a Platonic text. So a Balboa version of translation of Plato, or these books that we read here. So Pierre Grimes is another author. These books, because the authors are masters of the logos. Just like if you want to learn how to, do chemistry, you need to have a master of chemistry and read his book. So too we read these. Those who really know only want to learn. Sure, I guess. Yeah, so long as you're using the know in the positive sense and not the image of knowing, because that can be an issue. So, what blocks our learning? a false image of ourselves, a core belief about an unsuspected false belief about ourselves that causes a way of being and an identity, and that identity is what plays the decisive role in what your soul chooses for your next reincarnation. And so we've said, what kind of reincarnation would we want? Well, if this is our fate, it better be one in which you run into a Socratic philosopher, someone who's been learning the logos and the dialectic, but also with the kind of a soul or a kind of a life that creates a kind of soul where you're open to learning. It's no good running into a Socratic philosopher and saying, I know better. Yeah, it's going to be a problem. But what we've said is actually there's something even better. Because if you have come along to this, if you've come across this stream or this book, and you've got a kind of a soul where you're actually willing to go through this, the hero's journey. I'm looking for adventure. As Gandalf says in the quest to adventure, the call to adventure, which is the stage, one of the stages in the hero's journey. I'm looking for someone to share in adventure.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
There you go. Don't misinterpret my interaction with you as a coincidence, please. Sadly, that's your choice right now, not mine. Oh, I don't think it's a coincidence. Stick around. Yeah, we have fun. You can go through the past streams. All of these past streams are on YouTube. I chuck them up on YouTube. There's a link below. We're at 129. You can find a link to the text below as well. You can even order the book if you want a hard copy. But yeah, stick around, see where we go. You can join the Discord. Link to that below as well. So have fun. We have a lot of fun here.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike?
And we have sound drops. I don't need to go through those streams. Okay, what you like. But it's there if you want to. But no extra charge. Alright, so we've also talked about blah 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 blah. Decisive role in an next reincarnation. So reincarnate into a world where you can learn this, so you can do what you're here for. Or what Jesus says here, what if before the next reincarnation you say, no more thanks? To whatever degree the soul is facing a life that is where misery and suffering is its lot, why not pull back and say no? And Socrates says, you can make that choice at each moment. The end is everywhere present. The difficulty is you seek other things instead. So you can say that. So there is a different choice in your reincarnation to not reincarnate. Escape the prison of reincarnation, to quote Socrates from the Phaedo. But also you can do that right now. You don't even have to wait till you drop dead. To come to know thyself is to realize the nature of reality is divine. Our task is complicated because we seek other goals. Wow. And why is that? Because we have other loyalties. We have unsuspected loyalties to our clan and our image and our way of being that causes us to do other things when you can escape the cycles of reincarnation right now. Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go. Or to say it another way, to quote the cave allegory from the Republic, the opening of the cave from the world of shadows of the physical world, the world of opinions, beliefs, and images, to the world of real beings is completely wide open. Which makes sense because that experience of reality is, by definition, eternal or outside of time. The experience of time is a physical one. And we've been talking about that a lot already with understanding the cognitive state of knowledge. Okay, catch up with chat a little bit. I don't need to go, talk with me for 5 minutes and you'll decide yourself if you want to interact. No, I've already said that there are some conditions, but if you stick around and you become a fan of the stream, you'll pick up some learning, you'll get to see what's involved in this process, and we can do some dream analysis at some stage. But by the way, if it was a conversation, you'd have to be familiar with the dialectic, because it's not a debate. In other words, I'd be asking you questions that follow a structure. You'd be giving the answers. I'd be judging the answers and giving follow-up questions, ideally following the structure of a dream that you recorded. So you can't really do that unless you've stuck around for a while and you've gained a familiarity with the dialectic and what's involved. Otherwise, I'd just be wasting both of our time. I'm your best friend. You need to trust me. No trust here. No need for trust. Trust is belief. It's fucking stupid. Trust or belief is the cause of our problems. It's understanding. Demonstrate your interest and whatnot. Here is my Discord. No need to wait, brother. Accept or I go. Well, then fuck off then. Only a bad person would give an ultimatum. So, you know, if you were curious, you can say, why did I feel that I needed to give an ultimatum? Why do I feel like I know better when I've just learned that the process of learning involves me finding out what I think is knowing and going through the process of finding where I got this idea of knowing to, a loyalty to false beliefs and a way of being and an identity. After hearing all that and realizing you have to be puzzled and go through a process of discovering that this false identity and image of knowing isn't right, why then did you want to take charge and do what you think is the knower? That's the question. Like literally, that's a question. How did it feel when you wanted to take charge and you wanted to give an ultimatum? How did it feel? What thoughts were going through your head? Do you see, first of all, that it's inconsistent with the logos, with the reasoning of what we said? So those are the stages in going through a conversation, a real conversation. First of all, you have to see and be open to seeing that the thing that just happened was inconsistent with reason. I just said what was involved. I just explained it rationally. You've just read it in the book, even. That there's a pretense of knowing that gets in the way of your being able to follow along the lead of the logos. And yet, in spite of the rationality of that logos, you jumped in and decided that you know better, which is the knower, which is the very thing we're talking about. So the first stage is realizing that that's inconsistent with reasoning. The second stage is being puzzled by that. See, now you're telling me I don't understand. It's the same thing. I've just explained it to you. What part of that reasoning was inaccurate? Now, if you realize that what you just did was inconsistent with the reasoning, you've got a puzzle. If you are genuinely puzzled by why you just acted out in that way of being, considering we just said our way of being and our pretense of knowing is the very thing we're here to remove because it's the cause of our problems in this life and in our next. If you're genuinely puzzled, then we can talk. If you're not, then what are you doing? You're harming yourself. Get puzzled, son. Now, if you are puzzled, your job is to take notes. How did it feel? What were the thoughts that came up? What were the feelings that came up? Then look for a parallel or look for a past. Has that state of mind been playing out in your past? Has that state of mind you've just made notes of surface in other times when you need to be your best or you seek your goals, etc., etc., etc. You can't have a talk unless you've gone through these stages. Noticing you're playing a knower role. Notice going through the activity of jotting down the clues. Otherwise, we've got no clues to work with. Recognizing that there is a history to that state. If it's a one-off problem, then it's not a problem. you also have to recognize that that state of mind got in the way of your higher goals. You have to recognize what I'm offering you here is the dialectic, the very act or the art we're here to master as the meaning of life. If you don't have that, then you're not going to value anything I say or do. You're going to recognize the value of the goal, recognize the block that came up inconsistent with the reasoning, make notes about it. Actually have a notebook, write the shit down, because we're going to have something to work with. Recognize there's a history. I get into that state of mind often. I often am like this. See a familiarity maybe with some past figures. My dad would always do this. My mum wouldn't listen to me. My uncle would play the knower. Then create a solution. This is the cause of my problem. Because that solution is going to be wrong. If you knew the nature of your problem, you wouldn't be born and you wouldn't have that problem. So come to a conclusion. That conclusion is not going to be right. You have to be okay with it not being right to learn what you're here to learn. Because that conclusion itself will reflect the very problem you have on a deeper level, giving us another clue to work with. This is for everyone, anyone listening to this. I'm open to talking to you, should you meet all these conditions. If not, then what are you doing? I'll tell you what you're doing. You are being a loyal believer to the family by attacking a good person who's engaging in reason and understanding. Belief is, in principle, in opposition to understanding. That's why they killed Socrates. See? How did you go? How did you feel listening to this? Answer. Oh, hello, welcome, Sus. Everything I just explained, how did you feel? Did you feel curious? Did you feel puzzled? Did you feel mad? I'm certainly puzzled. We can voice chat. As a visual learner, I can take, no, okay. Man to man, okay. You're still not listening, still not listening. The way you explain is embarrassing, sadly, okay. So you're not. See? This is a fantastic example of not meeting the conditions for a dialogue. Yeah, if I want to listen to some jerk vomit his personal beliefs, I'll throw a rock and I'll hit someone. Everyone is attached to their own way of beliefs. That's why you're here. We wouldn't have been reincarnated if we were already knowing. That's why you have to listen to what I say, ponder it, establish a pattern of that pondering. Otherwise, even though I agree with, oh, good. Yeah, stick around. Stop in whenever you get time. See what happens. So that's another thing. There is a prerequisite of being in the game for a while. This isn't a tourist thing. This is for people genuinely interested in fulfilling their purpose or fulfilling the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life? To fulfill your destiny and master fate. Said another way, to master the self-logos. How are you? I am fantastic. To free yourself from the pathologos. Said another way, to know the self and end the cycle of clan beliefs. Or to say it another way, to master the other dialectic. All these different ways of saying the exact same thing. The meaning of life. But yeah, I am open to voice chats and dialogues, especially with dream analysis, but there are those conditions that need to be met. Otherwise, it will be doing harm to your soul. Because you'll be coming in thinking, my way of being and identity is actually right. I am the knower. And if I give any energy to that, then I'll be doing harm to your soul in this life and in your next reincarnation. Because that very identity you are carrying that has that way of being, that has that self, that knowingness, and all of which is in opposition to logos or the dialectic, that identity plays a core, decisive role in your choice of your next reincarnation. And I wouldn't feel good it wouldn't be just for me to damage your soul. Ain't nothing personal. But you won't give another individual any freedom to counter or even add to your ideas. What's to counter with? You can counter with anything. It just has to be rational. It has to be on topic. If there is any part of what I said or I explained as the prerequisites to being open to a dialogue, then please share. I'm open to it. It's got to be on topic. It's got to be relevant to what I said. And ideally, it's got to be in the text. Speaking of which, how are you today, sus? Do you have any cute emojis for me? You won't compartmentalize any counter. Oh, see, that's not fair. You've already decided that you know what I will say. That's not fair. You're speaking for me. You're taking away the interlocutor of the conversation. Unless it's a question. Did you mean it as a question? Exactly, a question. You won't. You diced my idea prior times 10. What idea? You haven't said anything yet. What did you want to add to what I said? Or what did you see was can be improved in what I said? What's your question? I'm waiting on your... What's the topic? The topic is, what are the prerequisites that need to be made for a voice chat where you can go through a dialectic? Trying to make sure I draw every day, but it's annoying doing that on my phone with my finger. How was the gym? Gym was good. Did chest today. You can see my boobs. See? I do that. You can see my... It's not called boobs. It's pecs. But they're massive. You can get one of these. I have a drawing pad. If you don't want to draw with your finger, you can use this. And I have this little pen that allows me to do lovely pictures of beautiful women. There you go. So the topic of discussion is if the meaning of life is to remove, to surface and eliminate the blocks that you carry that are caused by your past reincarnations learning and the nurturing of your soul from your past reincarnations that culminate in the clan beliefs of your upbringing. Those clan beliefs give you a pretense of knowing, an image of what it means to be knowing. It makes you loyal to any other goal than this, mastering the logos. But you accept a core, fundamental false belief that you don't even know you have. But the question is, why do we accept what's false? Because if you accept what's false, you get a way of being, an identity, what you think the self is, a way of being through which you express yourself. So MAGA has their own way of being, racism, has their identity, they wear the red hat, so long as they accept the core false belief that Trump is Jesus. And also they get a pretense of knowing. They get to be, libs are all bad. The Dems just want all boys to wear dresses. Can you imagine? So this is what we get in exchange. And it's our identity based on that our unsuspected false beliefs from our early childhood, which plays a decisive role in our choice of our next life. So our reincarnations play out the consequences, positive or negative, of our identity we get here. Therefore, the meaning of life for everyone is to discover this identity that we are attached to. We don't even know we have, by surfacing and eliminating the blocks to your excellence. So there's two parts. There's the excellence, and then there's the removing of your problems. Your excellence is your destiny, or knowing the self, or mastering the dialectic. That's why we read, to get the elements of the dialectic that we can apply to what we're most curious about: beauty, justice, excellence. And as we seek that mastery of the dialectic, you will find blocks that come up. The most meaningful thing you can do is address those blocks, meaning there are certain prerequisites required for a discussion where you can remove your false beliefs. The first one is you have to have your nose in a text. Otherwise, you're not going through the process of learning the dialectic and applying it to the nature of reality to know the nature of reality as divine or to know the self. That's why we have all these pictures on the board. These pictures aren't from my brain. Look, this level of dimensions of reality, the soul, a reflection of the idea of the good or pure being, eternity, which is itself a reflection of the one or the good self, comes from the book. How the heck am I going to know that the meaning of life is to know the nature of reality here as pure being and to go beyond that to know the self if I'm not reading the book? So you've got to have your nose in a book, first of all. Second, you better be drawing these diagrams yourself, applying them in the conversations you have with your friends, reflecting on your dreams, which will give you help in your reading. If your nose isn't in the text, you're not in the game. You're doing something else. And that thing that you're doing, that's okay though, so long as you recognize you're doing something else, because the problem with this is we don't do it. We have a loyalty to any other goal. Whatever stops you from doing what we're doing here, reading and putting this book on these notes on the board, whatever stops you is a clue. So long as you recognize this by reading and putting these diagrams, having these discussions and doing the dialectics, you can address your blocks. Meaning you have to, number one, have your nose in a text. Otherwise, you can't find blocks to your excellence if you're not seeking excellence. That's first of all. Second, you try it. You have to be aiming for it, because how else are you going to surface the blocks? The blocks are the material that we have discussions about, dialectic, not discussions, dialectics, to find the root beliefs that you are literally here to surface as the meaning of life. So if your nose isn't in a text and you're not trying your best to what we call mythologize them or personify them in your own life, to live out your highest vision and understanding of the logos, which requires courage and character, then you're not in the game. So, nose in the text, trying to live it as best you can. Third prerequisite, be taking notes. How can you reflect? How can you find what is unsuspected? How can you find the Moriarty if you're not gathering clues? It's Sherlock Holmes. We are doing the ideal version of Sherlock Holmes. So you have to be taking notes about the blocks that come up that block you. So have your nose in the text, personify them yourself, be taking notes. Fourth, you have to recognize you're not the knower. You're here to discover the idea of knowing that you are carrying. That's your very problem. I'm not going to talk to that girl because I know it's going to go badly. See? Do you know? Of course you don't. Will that idea of knowing block you? Absolutely. I can't know the nature of reality because I know Jesus is king. Do you know? Of course you don't. It's a belief. Is it going to block you from knowing the nature of reality? Absolutely. See? You have to recognize it's not some 4-year-old with a lollipop stuck up his nose that is believable. It's an image of knowing that seems real. Your beliefs feel real. Otherwise, how could they block you? That's the issue. So, nose in the text, personify it yourself. I should write these on the board. Nose in the text, personify it yourself, taking notes about the blocks. Have an understanding that the discussions are to surface what's unsuspected. You don't know your problems. If you think you know, then you're not in the game. You're stuck in your problem. Number 5, you have to have a familiarity to at least a little bit of what the dialectic entails. It's not a debate. We're not equal members. It's not a compromise. You will be asked questions and you give your best answers as honestly as you can. The questions are not from me. They are questions of the art of dialectic. Like you go into a doctor's office. You're the patient. You don't know medicine. Okay? to realize have an understanding of the dialectic, at least a little bit, to know what's going to be involved. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have to recognize that as you go through the process, it's going to be even more helpful if you become familiar of the very process you're going through. So as you go through the dialectic, learning about your problems, freeing yourself from your problems, be learning about that process yourself. Because ultimately, you're not going to surface all your problems if your goal isn't the highest. In other words, as you seek your goals, you will find blocks. As you remove the blocks, you're able to go to your next goal and your next goal. But you're not going to surface the entirety of your blocks unless your goal is the ultimate. The ultimate is, by definition, mastery of the dialectic. In other words, you're not going to completely go through this process. You are still going to reincarnate into problems. Unless you are also learning the dialectic as you go, because that's your highest goal. And finally, there should be 2 more. Have your nose in the book, personify it yourself, take notes of the things that come up. So, nose, personify, you have to be living it out, take notes that come up. Put it on this side actually. These are the prereqs. Nose in text. Personify. Your understanding. Or to say it another way, your highest. Personify your highest understanding and vision, or live the mythology. Just as we're learning about mythology, you highest understanding and vision. I don't talk directly to the chat. I give my answer and then I go through the chat. So so you got to listen, which is part of the game. Otherwise, what's the point? And highest vision. That's number 2. Number 3, you have to be taking notes. A different color. Be taking notes as you go. Otherwise, what do we have to work with? Move this up. Actually, let's move it over here. Got some space. Taking notes. So we can actually say personify your highest understanding and highest vision, and we can add to that seeking your highest self goals, personally meaningful, zoom in a little bit. Seeking your highest personally meaningful goals with excellence. So that's number 2. Number 1, you got to have your nose in the text. Nose in the text. What kinds of texts? There are 2. Balboa, translation of Plato. If you're not reading Balboa, you're not reading Plato. And anything by Pierre Grimes. two people who are masters of the Logos, Socrates and Pierre. Pierre rhymes. There are many. He's got dialogues, he's got the book we're reading, he's got the midwifery book. So, personify your highest understanding and highest vision, seeking personally meaningful goals with excellence. So also, the next thing you got to be doing is taking notes. Taking notes. Otherwise, what do we have to talk about? These are the clues. Taking notes about the blocks that come up. Blocks that arise. Okay. You have to then obviously have a familiarity with, in some level. I mean, if you've been watching this stream for any length of time, you've got, I mean, that's all I talk about, really, the dialectic. With and openness to the dialectic, my friend. Those are the first four. Next four. Number 5. Willing to, and here's our idea of sacrifice that we've been developing. Sacrifice, not the sacrificing what's good to accept the limits of belief. Sacrifice. Refice. Our false. And here we've got the list we've been developing. Our false core beliefs of self running out of space. Willing to sacrifice our emojis. I'll catch up with the chat in a minute, but that's how we go here. We don't do chat all the way through. We take moments. Self and reality. Okay. And what do we just read? Also, we read core beliefs, a loyalty to an image and way of life. What else do we have? A way of being and an identity. Core beliefs, self-reality. Way of being and an identity. You're willing to sacrifice the false core beliefs of self and reality, way of being and identity. And that also involves, so we can add another stage to this. Who's that? Oh, that's the raving. Who's the DJ? Who's the DJ in that emoji? This also involves a willingness to challenge family members, dearly held images of significant family members of our past teachers, which are going to be usually parents and family. Here we get that clan way of being. If you aren't willing to sacrifice that, you are in a problem. Way of being. Well, I like being a racist. I like being a Catholic. All right. Enjoy your problems and the suffering in your next incarnations. Who's the DJ? Sus? Is it a bat? Too small on my little screen. Okay. Those in the text, those two. Trying to personify your highest understanding and vision, seeking your most highest personally meaningful goals with excellence. No mediocrity up in this biatch. Be taking the notes about the blocks that arise. You have to have a familiarity with and an openness to participating in the dialectic. Now, in the dialectic, are you willing to, so this is a transitional stage, I guess. Are you willing to sacrifice what's false in that dialectic? Are you willing to learn about the dialectic as you go? Are you willing to, if you have enlightenment experiences, or if you reach goals along the way, are you continue. You continue. Use your enlightenment experience to further develop your understanding and your mastery. Continue to further develop your understanding and self-mastery. So, enlightenment experiences are not the end, by definition. You have to recognize that. Also, the goals that you have achieved now that you have been blocked for your whole life. I've never been able to do this thing. Now I can do it. See ya! I'm out the door. No, that's not the end. That's still further loyalty to other activities. Loyalty to any other goals. Yes, as you go through this process, you'll be unblocked. You're letting go of the blocks that you've been carrying about your way of being that you think is knowing, about your identity, self, all of the things, your way of being, family, clan beliefs, all the things that have blocked you are going to be dissolved, allowing you to reach higher goals that you've never been able to reach before. And why is this in a darker text than everything else? Whoops. Okay, that's okay. We'll have to move it around. It's in the wrong. What's that called? Font color? Font weight. Different font weight, but keep going. So, as you reach the goals that you haven't been able to reach, don't stop. If you have enlightenment experiences, don't stop. Continue, use those goals to continue to further develop your understanding and self-mastery. Okay. And then finally, number 8. You have to tell me that one. Let's leave 8 open. You could say, well, what about doing the dialectic yourself? Sharing it with others? Question mark. So, is the friend in chat still here? If he's still here, I'll go through his text messages, because now we've got what we need. See, this is the thing. The dialectic isn't me versus you. It's not debate. If you've ever watched debates on YouTube, they're bullshit. The reason why they're bullshit is they don't have a mean. What we've been learning about this is true learning is a mean analogy. A mean analogy. What's a mean analogy? A mean analogy for learning, for true learning, or the Dharma. The Dharma is an analogy, is a mean analogy. This is the model, the mathematical representation of true teaching, the mean analogy. I hope they have a nice day. I hope they don't. I hope then their day fucking bugs them, and then they start to wonder about why they've been bugged. Why have they come across a philosopher, a Socratic philosopher? You know how many of us are out there? I could count them on one hand, and I would have fingers left over. And having this fantastic opportunity, was so loyal to his idea of knowing and his ignorance that he fucked off. I hope his day bugs him, and his dreams bug him about that. So the true learning, or the Dharma is the name for true learning, is a mean analogy. Mean analogy. Why? And this is why debates suck. Because it's just Charlie Kirk, not anymore, some other fascist talking with some, I don't know, other person. And it's, this is what I think, and this is all what I think. And they can just lie. No one's fact checking. Do you know that most people who commit violence are lefties? That's not true. Who's to say? It's my belief it's true. Well, then you're a fascist. No, it's my belief you're a fascist. No, it's my belief you're a fascist. Every single debate ends in this way. I believe in all my own beliefs. You believe in all your own beliefs. That's it. Nothing fucking changes. Debates are bullshit. Not only did nothing change, no one is improved, and you have to defend your own beliefs, so you walk away more entrenched in your own ignorance than you walked in with. Debates not only are neutral and don't fix anything, they are objectively harmful. That's why debate is in the culture of belief. Debates hurt people, hurt souls. If you see a philosopher doing a debate, they aren't a philosopher. They're in opposition to philosophy. They're an Aristotelian or a materialist, or the word for that is stoic, or what Socrates calls a philodoxia, lover of opinion. Debate is philonikos, the love of conflict, both of which are in opposition to the dialectic and the logos. What's needed that isn't in a debate? A mean term. You have two extremes. You have an extreme on one side, let's say the teacher. You have an extreme on the other side, the student. One representing, let's say, wisdom, other representing ignorance. What's the issue? Okay, haven't heard back from that guy, so I'm not going to bother with his chat. He seems to be gone, so why would I waste my time? What's the issue? We just read the issue. Let's read it again. Where's my drink? The issue is, I need a coffee machine. I've been talking about a coffee machine, sus, because people who enjoy coffee have fancy coffee machines, and I've been drinking instant coffee. So I'm thinking about getting a coffee machine. Most of my money goes to music equipment. So, soon. Speaking of which, I'll be doing some music streaming soon. Maybe this week. I bought myself a guitar stand, and my promise to myself was, if I buy this special guitar stand, I'm going to start streaming again. So you can have, you get to enjoy in my music, and we can talk about philosophy while listening to music soon. I kind of don't see a point in going to someone else's stream and trying to force a demand a point. Yeah, I know, it's kind of silly, right? When someone's already got a system in place that they're lecturing a book and breaking it down for people to learn from, if people aren't here to absorb information, just preach. Why don't they stream instead? Exactly. This is the difficulty. The allure of our problems is you get to be a false knower, which is a professional opinion haver. This is every right-winger ever, every grifter ever. Let's take Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate started, he was on Celebrity Big Brother, and no one gave a shit about him because he was a boring, stupid individual. He was dull. But he realized he started making some sexist jokes and he would get more screen time. So he made more sexist jokes, got more attention. This is the issue. It fed into, see, if I gave that guy attention, he would become like Andrew Tate. He was getting attention and rewards for a false way of being, sexist. So he just lent into it. It made being a sexist his whole identity. And then the algorithms continued that attention. He would be sexist professionally now. And the algorithms would promote it because he'd get hate watchers. And then he became a celebrity. And what did he do? As soon as he got enough eyes on him, he became a professional opinion haver. That's a professional opinion haver is what Peterson did. Same thing. I'm going to be sexist and transphobic. The algorithm pushed it. People thought, well, let's debate him. Debates don't help anything. You're just giving an attention to a sick way of being. And then it became his whole fucking identity. A sexist, racist, science-denying chauvinist. Everyone, Joe Rogan, all of them, same formula. People debating or hate watching or arguing, debates don't help, further entrenches them into what? Into into an identity and a way of being, causing in particular a, where is it? A false image of knowing. Here we go. A pretense of knowing, the thing we're here to drop away. Literally antithetical to what we're here for. We're here to find that false knower, the professional opinion haver, and go through this process of being puzzled, being perplexed, following along, to dissolve it. If you don't, you will become further identified with that false knower or professional opinion haver, and that's going to cause the suffering in this life, and it's going to cause a shitty reincarnation where you're going to have to pay consequences for that shitty way of being and neglecting the purpose of your existence, says the book. But the algorithm and debate gives further attention to that negative way of being, and then as soon as they have enough clicks, they become a professional life coach. Literally, it's what Tate says. I teach I teach those blokes in England how to be a top bloke and have a Bugatti. I'm a role model for men, right? Jordan Peterson. Yes, let me give you the 10 rules for life. And then I'll do another book. 10 rules for life. You know shit about life. All of them. It's the same thing. We seek an opportunity to imitate our king priest of the family, our parent. Why king priest? Because kings don't need understanding and knowledge, which is needed for an art, which is used to benefit. Politicians don't fucking benefit us. And they don't have knowledge and understanding to be able to benefit us. They just say, I'm a professional opinion haver. I believe in America first. I believe that vaccines are bad. Clergy, same thing. They have no understanding of metaphysics. They have no direct experience of the high dimensions of reality. And they have no art of dialectic to pass on the Dharma. They just have beliefs. I believe in Muhammad. I believe in Jesus. Literally, beliefs cause our problems, and kings and clergy are the two professions where you can be a cruel asshole to people, and you don't have to have knowledge or understanding. You need understanding and knowledge to fly a plane. And parents is the third one. They get to be king priests of the house, and that's the model of knowing that becomes our clan way of being. You have to accept a false belief to buy into that bullshit. That becomes your problem. Your problem is your parent playing king priest of the house and accepting a false core belief about yourself. You get an identity within the family and a way of being to be racist like Ma and Pa. It's literally the cause of all human problems, and we see that in every single person. Therefore, if you're lucky, you've come across a Socratic philosopher who knows the dialectic that can walk you through midwifery to surface your problem and dream analysis to surface your problem and purify it. Otherwise, you're going to have a shit life, blocked from your goals, and you're going to have an even shitter reincarnation to suffer the consequences, because that identity that's false plays a decisive role in your choice of your next reincarnation. And we see that very same dynamic analogically, as an analogy, playing out with Tate and all of the fascists. Trump, Tate, Putin. Trump, the same thing. Was a professional bad person, got a lot of attention. Now I'm a professional opinion haver. Netanyahu, same thing. He became famous for being literally, I saw it this morning on a stream. His marketing campaign for becoming Prime Minister of Israel is, I'm an asshole and a son of a bitch. These are unjust things. Oh, but we need them for an Israeli state. What's he doing? The biggest asshole son of a bitch shit right now. Completely not helping any Israelis or any Jews while doing a literal genocide. Torturing children. Murdering children. Delimbing children. It's the same thing. Always the same thing. A false belief that's negative and unjust, that gets attention, especially from debaters or people who have a similar parent. They become identified with it as a way of being, causing their injustice in this lifetime and their negative reincarnations where they're going to suffer the consequences. It's always the same. So why accept something so terrible and false for this life and the next? Because the image or pretense of Noah becomes an addiction. We all want to be the Noah. The issue is, the true knowing is here. It's an empty, open state, receptive to the logos and visions of our ultimate reality and beyond. But instead of this, we substitute our parents, who are the king priests of our family. And then we get kings who are reflected, and presidents who reflect it, and priests who reflect it, reflecting Mormonism, and we become a Mormon. MAGA, and we become a MAGA. It's always the same game. It's the appeal of knowing and the desire to be a professional opinion haver or, in fake knower, what Socrates calls philodoxia, which means lover of opinions. Love of not Sophia, not philosophia, philosophy, not philodianoia, the even better art we are doing. Philodoxia, love of opinions, which is solidified by debates. Debates or philonikos, love of conflict. That's why people love debates. That's why debates on slop YouTube channels get 1 million views. Here's one socialist against 20 Nazis. Who's gonna win? Here's Charlie Kirk against college kids. Here's some other fucking Zionist dirtbag against some liberals. No one changes. They just engage in debate. Or philonikos, which is a love of conflict. Why? Because that's similar to the conflict they faced and also entrenches them in philodoxia, which is the love of opinions. We are doing the opposite. You can't debate away your problems. Debate causes your negative reincarnation. Of course, it's injustice, first of all. Injustice. Well, no, we're talking about justice. We're talking about negative reincarnation. Because it solidifies your identity. Solidifies. Identity. False. Identity or image of the self. Causes our negative reincarnation. Because our identity plays a decisive role in our choice of next reincarnation. So it's bad. Debates are bad. Opinions are bad. Philonikos and philodoxia is bad. But we're doing the opposite. But if our entire culture, if every human being born grows up in this culture, only a special select few, there's only a rare amount of people who are fortunate enough to learn this, come across a Socratic philosopher in their lifetime, and learn this stuff, making the art of the dialectic, which literally our sacred goal is to master the art of dialectic so we can know thyself and know the nature of reality and surface and eliminate our blocks to excellence. Which means ain't no jabronis out there who are familiar with the dialectic. So let me catch up in the chat. I'm a bit behind. I kind of don't see it. Yeah, we'll read that one. Coffee. Yes, coffee. Need a coffee machine. I think it's a good idea. I think you'll enjoy it. Oh, the coffee machine. Yes. Also, I was a complete stranger at one point, but also still a stranger too. Sure. You stuck around though. And you have emojis. I mean, what's that emoji? Also, if you don't want to VC with people in an open discussion, that's your personal choice. Yeah, it runs risk of having random people with no rapport joining you. If you're open to it, that's great. But, there has to be conditions met. Because you have to know about the dialectic, otherwise you're going to be harming your soul. Kind of premature of a demand with no rapport. Yeah, kind of a red flag, right? No, thank you, I appreciate it, but we're sticking with the initial plan of following the book and lecture. Well, that's the thing. Even though I kind of knew it was going to be a waste of time, the moment he started saying, "I'm here to educate you," it's like one of the first things he said. His logos betrayed his problem. His problem is he thinks, well, he's identifying with his parental role of the educator, and his words or his drama was trying to say, "Oh yes, I agree with what all of you are saying," trying to ingratiate myself. His logos betrayed his problem. Not the entirety of it, but enough to recognize. But the thing is, I've noticed that when these things happen, and I'm not the best streamer in the world, but I'm noticing that sometimes when these things happen, it gives me an opportunity to talk about something I wouldn't have otherwise talked about. In other words, it gives me an opportunity to take. So we're going through these stages. The stages of learning that we know is, or we can create a strong hypothesis is the meaning of life, because we can only go through them in a body, which is what? The cognitive stages of learning, and we need a body because they have a feeling attached to them. So here we are, puzzled about the meaning of life, puzzled about justice, puzzled about what we should do with our reading. Should we share it? Should we have dream analysis? Should we have dialectics on the channel? There's a question. I don't know. I'm numb to this. But I recognize being numb and realizing I don't know if I should talk to people or not. I don't know who's fed posting. I just learnt that word, fed posting. I know that there are people who are bad actors, but I don't know how to recognize them all the time. But here's where I am, following the lead of the logos to get an answer. Which is another way of saying the conclusions that we are coming to in the text, I get to apply them when some jabroni comes into the chat with a bunch of questions. So here we are, reflecting on why we couldn't have a talk with him yet, but should he meet the conditions, he's more than welcome to. It would benefit his soul and his life and his functioning. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. Which takes all of the notes that we are doing and giving us a chance to apply them. Make them real. Which is also a training of our soul in the positive way. Because what we're here to do is, we can say it another way, the thing that we can take with us, so these are all different, all of these outgrowths from the sacred goal are all different ways of explaining the meaning of life. Another way is saying, in the gap here, learning, the only thing we can take with us into our reincarnation is the learning we go through and the nurturing of our soul. Meaning, we've been learning about this stuff on the board, but having to address his question gives us a chance to apply it, which takes it into my soul. I get to ensoulify. Just as debates entrench the negative into your soul, causing your negative functioning in the world, like causes philodoxia and philonikos, which cause negative functioning in the world, like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson and everyone else that we mentioned. In this life, it will also cause your negative reincarnation. Why? Because you're solidifying that false identity. So that's the negative, that if I played on his terms, would be a negative entrenching within my soul and a negative entrenching in his soul, a lose-lose, which is debate, pretending conversations are equal, that he's just as wise as me and all that sort of shit, which is, being polite, which is the modern Democrats. No one's smarter than everyone else, says the Democrats, so let's compromise with the fascists. Let's let the idiots in charge. Let's let Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who are morons, in charge. because they're just as smart as everyone else because nothing is anything. Relativism, which sets the stage for the people who actually have principles, they're shit ones, fascists, to come in and say, well, fuck you, we're going to take over. And the Democrats go, well, who's to say what's right and wrong? And above those two, a mass of difference, a slop of differences, the Democrats, and the believers, right-wingers, you have understanding, which is 3, mind 2, and the self 1. And 3, 2, 1 have the logos or the dialectic. So you need to have someone functioning at either 1, 2, or 3 to engage with. Otherwise, you'll be further entrenching your negative functioning in this world and in the and beyond. So, we get a chance to put into nurture what we've been learning in the text by responding to this person. We also had an opportunity to do the opposite. So a dialectic has both, the positive and the negative. We got to do, let me catch up in the chat. Don't let people ruffle your feathers. Oh, no, I'm not ruffled. This is exciting stuff. I wasn't ruffled at any stage. It was obvious what he was doing. But I'm still curious, like, what could be his belief? Why is he so certain? Why, having this rare opportunity to get to talk to a philosopher, do you know how long it took for me to talk to Pierre Grimes? The only other philosopher out there? That I could see anyway. But my whole life trying to get there. On my own, and studying on my own. And here he is, gets to talk to me. In a philosophy stream. So what could be even more powerful that he's willing to sacrifice an opportunity like that would benefit his soul? And I'm not preaching, I'm taking my time to outline the text step by step, rationally. He couldn't disagree with anything. He had to lean on, well, you probably will do this. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. Ask a question. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. Well, that's the puzzle. Why, when saying, oh, I'm willing to listen, why would he rather run away from the logos? That's a puzzle. Man, King is spitting facts today, and that's true. Man, knowing sounds exhaustive. Navigating the world of extremes in fear of being wrong sounds tiring. Like, the false idea of knowing. The ego has such a hard time in accepting mistakes. That's why it's always in conflict. So, we've been talking about believers being always in conflict because the nature of the soul is always in conflict because all of these terms of understanding that we know in knowledge, all at once in knowledge, like a whole and part, they are a part in conflict with the whole. They want to end life. They have a limit. They have to accept the limits of their family clan in conflict with freedom or unlimited. They're in conflict. They don't like other people having freedom. They always say, I have a freedom to have guns, but don't guns just remove everyone else's freedom? I want that. They're in conflict. Also, a conflict is they are always in motion and never at rest. So, limit, unlimit, motion, rest, whole, part, these are all basic units of understanding, perception, and experience. Everything you've seen is either unlimited or limited, in rest or motion, a whole or a part. Everything. The dialectic uses them artfully to surface your conflict between these two and develop understanding, which is a providential connection between the two. That's the dialectic. The dialectician looks at the whole while being able to relate to the parts. There is a freedom in following the logos that allows you to address people's limits. You are at rest because you don't have to remember anything or carry anything because the true knowing is an emptiness or openness. Whereas the false certainty of believers are always in motion. All I did was take what you said. It sounds tiring. or exhausting, never accepting mistakes. All I did is took your observation and used the dialectic and the logos to simplify it. They are always in motion, never at rest. But now that you've nailed down your observation in understanding, you can carry it. It's yours now. Then the next believer you run into, you don't even have to wonder about it. Because by definition, if believers are in conflict between these two elements, you can guess. I am going to predict you are going to be exhausted and tiring because you're always at motion in conflict with rest. See the significance of understanding? You've taken your observation, put words on it, which is important. So we have a community or a space here where you can put words on your observation. Expressed your vision and understanding the best you can. The dialectician comes along and points to the logos, allowing you to take your observation and nail it down in pure understanding. And the next thing you have to do is go out into the world, and the next time you run into a believer, apply your understanding. Oh, my understanding of what it means to be a believer is in motion, in conflict with rest. You won't like peaceful people, and you will be exhausted. And the more you apply your understanding in that experience, test it as a hypothesis, you are learning and nurturing. If there is reincarnation, and we've seen that it's almost certain that it is, the only thing you can take with you isn't your wealth or your clicks or your anything physical. You can only take what you learn in your soul and what you nurture into the state of being of your soul. That's the dialectic. There's no debate here. I take your observations, apply the logos and dialectic to it. You walk away with an insight or understanding that's your learning that you go on to apply in your everyday world as you seek your meaningful goals with excellence. And you get to apply this, which nurtures it into your soul. That's what we're here for. That learning and nurturing you can take with you into your next reincarnation, or if you sufficiently master it, you can escape this reincarnation into suffering and ignorance and have a different reincarnation into a much better place. That's the dialectic. Now, the other part of the game is removing what's false, the false learning and nurturing, but it's the same steps. You take your observations of the world, not positive ones that you made, but ones about your blocks to doing this. As you go out and apply this, you'll find blocks. You got to take notes about those blocks. And then you meet up for a midwife talk or a dialectic talk. And the dialectician just does the same thing. He applies his the understanding of the logos or dialectic to turn your observations into insights and understanding. There's your learning that you go out and apply in the world. There's your nurturing. And you're able to reach your goals that you haven't been able to do before. But also you are learning and nurturing your soul by removing what's false. You are more free, open, receptive, causing, again, positive reincarnations and avoiding negative reincarnations. So we just went through an example of a positive dialectic. The exact same thing applies to the negative. Only the observations are not about accurate ones like you just did. It's about the blocks that come up to your development. Does that make sense? And that's why we were creating, as a response to him, the conditions needed to go through that dialectical process. You got to have some and that's that here. Well, I just went through gives you number 4, some familiarity with and openness to the dialectic. We're not debating. I'm also not telling you anything that I have. The dialectic simply takes those observations like you just gave, and the dialectician just structures and orders them through a question and answer process. I mean, because we're on chat, I can't ask you off like a lot of questions, but I can say, hey, did that make sense, what I just said? But to remove your blocks, you have to be also making those positive assessments like you just made here. It made sense, thank you. See? I didn't tell you anything, did I? I just used the text and used the dialectical logos to restructure your observations within motion and rest. So, if you don't have a book, your nose in the text, you can't be making those positive observations. That's why you have to be reading a book. That's why we read books here. Otherwise, what are you learning about? 2 kinds. A Balboa version of Plato, because that's the only accurate version out there. Everything else is a distortion, belief-based from the distortions and problems of the translators. Or a Pierre Grimes book. There's plenty. You have to be trying your best to personify your highest vision or seek your most meaningful goals. Because that's needed to surface the blocks. As those blocks surface, as number 3, you have to be taking notes. Because that's the material that you can bring into the talk that you get to reflect on with the art of the dialectic to restructure as understanding, to make it that you can go and test, giving you the learning and the nurturing, making it your own. So you got to be taking notes of the blocks that come up, the negative self-talk, the feelings, negative feelings, images, fantasies, distractions that come up when you're seeking your meaningful goals. But also, you have to have some familiarity with the dialectic to know that that's the process. I'm not giving you anything, that wouldn't be your birth, but also you're not in charge because you don't have the art, you have the issue. I'm just using the dialectic to guide your reflection. So that's the first 4 that gets you into the game. But when you're in the game, you've got the next 4. If you're not willing to sacrifice your false core beliefs about self and reality, your false way of being, and your false self-image or identity, then you're not going to solve your problems. You're wasting everyone's time. But to do that, you have to be willing to challenge your dearly held images of significant family members. You love them. That's why you believe them. You only love them because you think they're good and beautiful. But they weren't when they were passing on this stuff. If they didn't appear good and beautiful, you wouldn't believe what was false. It's a con. If you have to be willing to challenge your past teachers, parents, king priests, and also to sacrifice your family clan way of being. This is the true idea of sacrifice. You're sacrificing what's bad and negative and gets in the way of your development. Okay? That's in the game. While you're in the game, you also have to be learning about the dialectic as you go. Because the more you learn, the better you're going to get at it. The more you can anticipate the stages, recognize deviations from the dialectic. And if the other person has problems too, you might be able to switch sides. You're going through your own midwifery and the midwife's problem comes up, change roles. Now you midwife them for a while. And the better you understand the dialectic, the better you can do that. Also in the process, you're going to have goals that you reach that you were never able to reach before. You're going to have enlightenment experiences. Don't stop. Neither of those are the end. Keep going. To use enlightenment experiences or goals that you've reached to further improve and continue your understanding and self-mastery of the dialectic. Of the dialectic. And then finally, while you're in the process, share. Either share your mastery, share your insights, share your ups and downs. Find others in the game along with you. Talk about it. Over coffee. I don't have coffee, but I'm pretending. Cheers. So what have we done? We've created 8 stages or preconditions for entering into the meaning of life. The game, the dialectic that you're here to participate in to remove your false images, way of being, identity from your family clan beliefs along with your former incarnations, or to master your fate. But also, because it's the same dialectic and you're also got your nose in a text, you're able to reach your destiny or your highest and most meaningful goals with excellence, knowing the nature of reality as your mind, which is divine, and beyond that, the highest ultimate reality, the self. Know the self. Giving you a color. Giving you 1, know thyself. That state of being the highest, the purpose, thyself. Giving you knowledge of reality or mind. But also, you got there by developing understanding and the art of dialectic. 1, 2, 3. Knowing the self, nature of reality, and the art of dialectic. That's the goal. For everyone. For always. Now, 1, 2, 3, we know that these are the 3 stages of cognitive development. So we know there's a 4th, which is belief. And number 5, it's all relative or a mass of difference. So these 3 is your destiny, knowing the self beyond even ultimate reality, knowing ultimate reality as the divine and the eternal, your own mind, or the first reflection of self, allowing self to know itself, pure usia, giving you the model of beauty and justice, but you can use the self and your ultimate model of beauty and justice to benefit others because you develop the art of the dialectic along the way. Self, knowing, understanding. 1, 2, 3. That's your purpose. You can only reach your purpose or destiny if you also remove the false beliefs along the way. So here is your mastery of fate, or 4. And of course, below that, we have that 5th state of mind where you think, well, there's nothing important. So that's not really a part of this, but you can recognize that. You don't want to, that's the danger. You don't want to leave beliefs into a mass of difference. While believers are in conflict between motion and rest, parts and whole, Democrats or the democratic establishment or the everything is relative folks say there is no whole. There is no paradigm to let the fascists take over. Who cares? There is no rest. There is no purpose. So they are disconnected. Believers are in conflict between the higher, but for a mass of difference, there is no higher. We can even put nihilists and doomers into that category as well. People who give up. So, we master either giving up or being attached to our beliefs to remove our fate through this process, which require these 8 preconditions we've just outlined to play the game. That also gives you a freedom. And because part of the game requires you seeking your higher goals and along the way, learning about dialectic as you go, not only do you free yourself from your fate or your problems, you're at the same time got the same conditions for mastering the art of the dialectic along the way. As you apply your midwifery insights, you open yourself to true knowledge, and because you're reading the text also, you get this as well. So we can say the dialectic or philosophical midwifery covers all the bases. Or if we wanted to look at the word philosophical midwifery in another way, we could say, well, philosophy applies to the higher, midwifery applies to the removing of the beliefs. Dream analysis is for both. Mythology is the sharing, how you share it is both. So we could say that, or we could just say, well, it's only the one thing. Because in midwifery, you give birth to false, and you could say, well, philosophical midwifery technically is the whole thing. Because these 8 stages require you to share, so there's mythology. You can really only do the best midwifery if you do dreams, so dreams is in it as well. And you have to have your nose in a text, so philosophy is in it as well. So there are 2 ways of understanding midwifery, either as the part that specifically gives birth to your false beliefs, or the whole thing. Pierre Grimes used it in both different ways depending on the context. So those are the preconditions. That's the meaning of life. These are the conditions to partake in the meaning of life. The meaning of life is, therefore, mastering fate and fulfilling your destiny, or removing your pathologos and mastery of the self-logos along the way, which is a kind of learning, and then as you apply it in that process, you're also nurturing, allowing you to know yourself and the nature of reality, and also eliminate the false blocks, or know the self and end the cycle of clan beliefs. That's your sacred goal. That's the meaning of life. In one word, the dialectic. That's what we're here for, says the book. Because this book bangs! You made me think. I do have a question a lot about my childhood and how it shaped me. Yes. Reflecting also many childhoods from past reincarnations. You don't have to go into all of them because we have everything we need in our current pathologos problem. Nothing is important is a psychological way to protect oneself, you know, gives you permission to shut down and give up. Yes, that's bad. To believe you need to protect yourself from reality is a false belief. So that's why that 5th stage, a massive difference, isn't a stage on its own, it's a consequence. See, belief is the cause of all problems in the world. Genocide, mass murder, Abrahamic beliefs, cause of that as well. But personally, it's the cause of your conflicts in your relationships, your blocks. That's your pathologos. That's belief. As a result of that, you might say, well, I don't want to be a part of the believers, so I'm going to give up. That's why the massive difference is a response to belief. So then you have no model, no understanding, and you retreat to what feels like safety, the apparent safety of just making personal statements. Well, I think that, but it's not true for everyone. Other people can reach goals, but not me. No universal principles. I don't like religion, but maybe religion is fine. That's the modern Democrats. That's a consequence of leaving belief downward. What we need to go is, hey, you don't need to protect yourself from reality. There's a justice. You are constantly being communicated in all possible ways by mind for your development, which is literally why you were born here, reincarnated here. That's the movement from belief, or pathologos, up to understanding. And you verify your understanding in experiences of the eternal nature of your soul or your mind. That's knowledge. And of course, even that has its cause. So you use your understanding and knowledge together, which is called wisdom, to reflect on even the cause of that to know the self. 1, 2, 3. There's no accountability, no responsibility, just a numb abyss of spiraling. Yes, the negative side effects of leaving beliefs without reclaiming, because beliefs have to function in opposition to 3, 2, and 1. If you understand something, why would you believe someone else? If you know something, what purpose is there to believe a king or a parent or a clergy? And if you're by the way, do you have to believe you are a self? If there's anything you can't have a belief about, it's that you are a self. So believers have to teach a fear and hatred of 3, 2, 1. So when you leave belief, that fear and hatred is still going to be there. That's the retreat into everything is relative, or there's no model, or nihilism or doomerism. A loser mentality for losers, some people call it. In other words, you're still being affected by belief while not being in the group. You are other from them, but not in a good sense. We need to reclaim understanding mind and self, which is by seeking your self goals, seeking your highest vision and using your highest vision, that's mind, and your highest understanding. That's seeking your personally meaningful goals while acting in accordance to your highest understanding in mind was stage 2. Seeking your highest, most personally meaningful goals with excellence, that's stage 1. Seeking your self goals, that's the self. Using your highest vision, that's mind. And personifying and using your highest understanding, that's understanding. So if you're not doing that, you're not in the game. That's why it's stage 2. Right after having your nose in a book. One of these two. So you read every day here on the channel, and it's fun to read it anyway because it bangs so hard. There's a comfort when you believe nothing. Yeah, it's a fake comfort. It's a lie. It's a lie of belief. You're still listening to believers. Can't participate in reality you're disconnected to, so we can't change when we give up. Stagnation, complacency, and are willing to die, basically. Yeah, that's the Democrats that are not fighting back against ICE or Netanyahu or Trump. If you can't participate in reality, then why are you here in reality? It's a lie. It's a lie from the very believers. In other words, you're still influenced by the believers. It's not true. It's a lie. One of the worst ones. But that's the thing. So this last term, sharing it, there are certain kinds of fivers, or everything is relative, or nothing is anything, that can only be awakened from that block if they meet another person. So the fact that you and I are talking here means there's at least 2 things that exist. The fact that we can use shared language means there's something that exists called words or language that allows us to know each other. And by the way, how fun it is that we can talk. That's something. So if you think there's nothing, you can't participate in reality, where do you think words come from? Have you ever seen a word walking down the street? Nope. We have minds that can participate in something eternal of reality, allowing us to use concepts like beauty and justice that you've never seen, but you have words for. And the fact that you don't know some things and I don't know something, but we connect, means there's some sort of learning or sharing going on that we can have fun in. These are the sorts of things you can point to as a dialectician with someone in that nihilistic state. So hopefully, and that'll give them something to think about. That can wake them up out of that negative state. And hopefully you can get really good at it, that you can go to America, that you can go talk to the Democrats in America and say, hey, by the way, Schumer, Pelosi, let's fucking talk, shall we? You think there's no principle, there's no universal truth? You think you can give up and let the fascists take over? Let's talk. Encourage them to put words on what their highest understanding and vision. Point to the fact that you can connect. Point to the fact that there are words that have meaning. Point to the fact that therefore there has to be some sort of eternal universal truth. And then point, by the way, if the words that we are using in conversation exist, there must be a model or paradigm for it. Therefore, we can say that there is an eternal paradigm that is understandable, that we can participate through mind and conversation. That eternal principle is therefore intelligible or able to reflect in reason. Therefore, there must be a harmony and order in it that's reflected into our physical world. Therefore, if you want to care for the physical world, you best make the physical world reflect those intelligible principles that are always true. 1 and 1 will always be true. So whenever any scientist says, whenever some Republican says, I believe in class, we should teach 1 and 1 is 4, you can make a law that can never ever be taught. Even if it's a fascist saying it, even if it's a Trumper saying it. That's what it means to be a lawmaker, Pelosi and Schumer. By the way, 1 and 1 is 2 is easy. Now, the intelligibility of that reality that's reflected into our physical universe, you need to make sure your medical directors are following that. It's not all beliefs, is it, Schumer? It's not all let's give up, shall we, Pelosi? Therefore, why the fuck have you let Kennedy Jr. spread his lies that don't reflect the intelligibility of reality, that's going to kill many children and already has killed many? His anti-vax horse shit. Now, don't say it as sternly as I'm saying it, because they're old and they'll have a heart attack. Second, we've gone from 1 + 1 is 2. We've gone to medicine is a truth or a paradigm in medicine or a healthy body. Next, let's move from the healthy body to the soul. Are we souls that participate in cognitive functions like belief and understanding? Are there desires that are in harmony with intelligible order and principles, and desires that aren't? Like to be a billionaire or to murder Palestinian children. Therefore, if we've already established you need to make laws that are universally true based on the intelligible paradigm of reality, don't give up and be a number 5. Massive difference. There is no whole. You've seen there's a whole. You've seen its understanding. You better gain an understanding of it and maybe even experience it as knowingness, because literally your job is to make laws that reflect the eternal nature of reality. You best fucking get off your ass, master the dialectic, know the nature of reality, understand it through the logos and dialectic, and make some fucking laws about it, and stand up to fascists like Trump and JFK Jr. and Netanyahu, who are doing literal injustice, which isn't an opinion, it's an opposition to the intelligibility of the nature of reality upon which all laws should be based. That's justice and injustice. And by the way, pure justice is not just setting laws in harmony with the intelligibility of reality that you can understand and know, 2 and 3, it's also addressing 4 beliefs. pure justice is also addressing the false beliefs that cause dictators to want to act in opposition to justice. The religious people, the Abrahamics, the Zoroastrians, the MAGAs, the Nazis. These are all fundamental false beliefs that they have a clan identity with and a way of being attached to that is dominating their souls and causing injustice in our world that will bring the end of all life on our planet. It will, in principle, because they are in conflict with rationality and reason. That's the nature of belief. So Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, stand your bitch asses up and fight back against that and establish the justice laws and address the injustice that's playing out on our planet. And maybe even point to the fact that if you don't, your souls will have to suffer the consequences of that in your next reincarnations, just as Putin's and Netanyahu's will too. So that's a conversation you can have with these people. And it's a conversation that may be necessary if they are in stage 5, where they are rejecting, as you say, they have retreated into the apparent comfort and safety of there is no model, who gives a shit, let Trump kill all the people he fucking wants. That's not your job. Your job is to do what we just went through. That's not an opinion. That's different from opinion. That's truth and understanding. Or, to phrase that as in the dialectic structure, you are a mass of difference. You are other from the self logos. Believers are in division, others to others, conflict. Understanding is needed to function with the ideal model of the logos is knowledge. That's the second. Knowing yourself as the intelligibility of reality, but you need to also understand it. It's not just that's why we said, even if you have enlightenment experiences, number 7, keep going. It's no good just having a brilliant light of experience, being experienced like Jesus did, and then retreating into beliefs or ignorance. You best understand it. So use your enlightenment experiences, number 7, for development of understanding. So you have both this and this, so you can make laws that reflect it. That's what it means to make just laws. But also pure justice, reread, is also addressing this and this, which is in opposition to the logos. That's literally the meaning of life. And the people who do it the best should be the politicians and should be the spiritual leaders. We are in an ass-backwards world because it's the only 2 professions, along with parents who cosplay both, that don't have that and can just say, well, I believe in Jeebus. I believe in MAGA. Fuck off with belief. That's not your job. Every single clergy, every single politician. So we see it playing out. So here we go. And by the way, we want to go beyond both understanding and knowledge to know the self. That is the cause of both. Isn't that interesting? So knowledge is experiencing the logos out of time or eternity. That's the nature of reality we've been talking about, or pure Usia. Uses the highest positives, which includes justice. That's why justice lives there. That is reflected into reality through time. That's understanding. That's how come we can understand what a believer is in opposition between whole and part, because whole and part are the basic building blocks of rationality that can be experienced all at once in knowledge. So it's the intelligibility of this highest experience, or the highest positives, that's reflected in time and understanding. That's why this is the kind of learning and nurturing we're here to do, because it's always going to be true. It's not based on a physical thing. It's based on the metaphysical experience. And it works. I mean, everything is a whole and a part, same and different, like and unlike, and so on. And you can use it to understand stages of development. You can also use it to understand music and chemistry and physics, everything. Because it's the paradigm of all intelligibility. That's the logos. Now, People in understanding have there is a distorted reflection of understanding and knowledge as belief. That's the false image of knowing, or what do we call it before? Presumed knowingness? What is it? We give up pretense of knowing. That's certainty. So there's a pretense of knowing as certainty, and a pretense of understanding by just being a brat or a debater. Philonikos, lover of fighting and debates. Philodoxia, love of opinions. That's belief. A distorted reflection of the higher. But as you leave belief and you go down, you go into that massive difference. That's what you were talking about, where you give up. That's the modern Democrats. There is no principle. And it's those sorts of people that may require a conversation with you. To go through all of that you've gone through, so you know what it takes to go through it, but also you can have that conversation to point to the fact that there is no point in giving up. You're just going to reincarnate in a worse way. And everyone else is going to fucking suffer if you're a politician. So it's those kinds of giving up people, or massive difference, or the slop people, who retreat into the apparent safety of just making personal statements, that we address with number 8. Share it. It's not a solo quest. It's the meaning of life for everyone. So, that's what we're here for. That's a little, I'm a practicing anatomy and art. Oy. Still trying to animate someday. Yeah. And if you give up, you're going to recognize you are where? Number 5, massive difference. If you believe you can't do it, you're going to recognize you're where? Number 4, belief. False belief about the self. When you face the blocks, what are you going to do? Tick these 8 boxes and have a midwife talk with the help of your dreams. Exactly. I gave up a long time ago, so getting back into it after a decade, that's exactly what you need to be doing. Pick up what you sacrificed. And now, instead of sacrificing the goal to keep your false image, now you have to go through this process to find and surface the self-image and sacrifice that. That's literally the purpose, or pure justice. To find and sacrifice our false images of self. So you're doing the right thing. As you face the blocks, midwifery and dream analysis. As you are able to reach your goals, keep going. As you make the best animation ever made, keep going. Don't stop. My family groomed me to quit. Yes, but for you to believe them, you had to have an image from your childhood that made you susceptible to that kind of false belief. In other words, for you to fall for the trap, you had to already be carrying something false. That's why midwifery traces it back to the very first origin scene where we developed that image of ourselves that we don't even know we have. You can't surface it. You don't know you have it. You can surface the clues about it by seeking your goals and writing down those notes. That's 1 and 2. Well, you have to have your notes on text. Seek your goals. 2. Take notes. That's 3. You won't recognize it. It just seems normal. Seems obvious. That's why you fell for them. But the more you learn about the dialectic, and number 4, you're willing to sacrifice your core beliefs and your family images and your false images of what it means to be believable and knowing and loving. Are you willing to sacrifice that? In which case you're ticking the box for number 5. Then you can go through this process of unblocking yourself, which is literally, the book says, the purpose you were here in the first place. You have to learn about the dialectic as you go. It makes you better at it. It also makes you a better animator, because that dialectic is the principle. This is the highest use of the dialectic, but because it's the paradigm of everything, it's in every other art too. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
And if you have goals and you reach your goals or have enlightenment experiences, keep going and share it along the way. Those are the 8 prerequisites for you, for our visitor in chat today, and anyone watching this for a midwife talk or a dream analysis talk. You can do it on stream or in person, join the Discord. But these are the prerequisites on the board, 1 to 8. Write them down. Share them with your friends over coffee. Doing anything else is the issue. If that's the game, it's written on the board, and it's the meaning of life, or our sacred goal. It sounds so simple, but as the book said, the issue is we have loyalty to other goals. I don't want to do this. I think this thing is better. Why do you think that thing's better? I don't know. I think it's better. Oh, that's an idea about the good, right? Yeah, I guess it's more good to do this other thing. So you know the idea of the good. You have knowledge. No? I guess not. Because to reach the good is dialectic. So how do you know the other goal is better? You don't. You're lying to yourself. You got a block. That's okay, we all do. In fact, when you pursue any other goal than this, or even your other goals like animation, if you're not doing it in conjunction with this, you've got a problem. A loyalty to any other goal is the problem. What's the goal? Master the dialectic. How do you do that? Master fate, or remove your pathologos and fulfill your destiny by mastering the self-logos in understanding all at once and knowing, and somehow see the inherent transcendent intelligibility of the self. Otherwise, you might end up as a poor old Buddhist. I reached nirvana. What's that? Emptiness. What? Did you recognize the self? What? How did I do that? It was empty of all qualities. Ah. Did you notice the logos? You sound like a Taoist that talks about the experience of knowledge as enlightenment. I do. That's right. But they stopped there. And you as a Buddhist reaching nirvana skipped it. So a Taoist and a Buddhist master can cross each other in a path and not recognize themselves. What do they both lack? If the Taoists have 2 and the nirvana has 1, the Buddhists, they miss each other and they miss the self because they lack 3. That's why the paradigm of not only justice for Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, but the paradigm for spirituality, not a spiritual group, but all, is the meaning of life, the dialectic. The dialectic is the development of understanding, culminating in that Taoist experience of ultimate reality, but from which you can go beyond to reach that nirvana state, but not mistake it for emptiness or nihilism, because you're carrying this understanding with you and a question. In what way is the self the cause of the logos? If the logos is the highest descriptor of knowledge and the logos is the highest functioning in time, the dialectic, how the fuck can the self be the cause of both of them if it's beyond experience, even the highest experience? So when you reach that completely pure arusiya or pure state of awareness or nirvana, make sure you've got your question and your mastery of the dialectic in your back pocket. Otherwise, you're going to go around again. You are still in the cycle of reincarnation. Paradigm of spirituality, therefore, the paradigm of politics, therefore, kings and clergy. The 2 professions that currently lack a model, here it is. Not only is it the model of those, it's the model of being a good parent, it's also the model of being a good person, because the mastery of the dialectic is the functioning of the self. That's our sacred goal. Anything else is a block or an indication of a block. Isn't that neat? Did I mention this book's a fucking banger? How many books can lead to that conclusion? Holy shit. What a cool book this is. So, there we go. Our friend in chat is going to report back to us. How did her conversation with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer go? Then, after that, seeing as you're in the car anyway, driving around, drive down to your local Buddhist center and have that conversation with the Buddhist, and then go down to the local Taoist center and find the most enlightened Taoist there and have that conversation with them, and just pass on everything that you've gone through today, which is nothing other than the nurturing of your soul in the learning that you're here to do. So let us know how that goes, please, sus. And communicate that to us, and also in your art, in your animation. So give us an animated episode of how your conversation with Pelosi and Schumer in 5 went, and give us an animated episode of how your conversation with the Taoist and the Buddhist gurus went too. Deal? Great. Oh, and share it on the Discord. So, anyone watching, you can also join the Discord, and you imagine that. Wouldn't that be the best animated anime you've ever seen? Literally. That's mythology, by the way. That's the sharing, by the way. Wow. What do you say, Owen? What do you say, Emma?
Bless you. Excuse you. Bless you.
Yes, bless you and excuse you and bless you. And what do you say, Oracle?
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
You don't have to imagine it. We're going to see an animated episode of it in the Discord. You can join the Discord. There's a link in chat. You can follow on Twitch and YouTube. There's a PDF to the book that we're reading. That bangs. And you can donate. If you want to donate to the channel, you can donate to buy me a coffee that I will put towards a coffee machine. That is the fuel for this stream. And if I get super popular, I'll buy a nicer camera, so it'll be a more pleasing stream for you all. So thank you once again. And like always, I will see you in the next one. See you there.